make matters worse. This means it is going to be difficult for us to cook.
Gauteng police have confirmed that they are hunting for suspects who shot and killed a 40-year-old woman at a tire fitment centre in Vanderbilt Park, south of Johannesburg yesterday. According to police, the suspects were travelling in a VW Polo. Following the shooting, they sped off. Police say the motive for the murder is unknown, but investigations are continuing. Gauteng police spokesperson Noxolo Khweza.
Police have opened a murder docket following a shooting incident at a garage in Vanderbilt Park. A 40-year-old woman was shot and killed, and the suspect fled. No arrest at this stage, and the investigations are continuing.
The Western Cape Mobility Department says 30 people have died on the province's roads over the past week. Pedestrians accounted for 19 of the fatalities. More than 60 people were also arrested, mostly for drunk driving during road safety operations. Mobility Minister Isaac Sileko has expressed concern over the errant behavior of drivers, saying officers will step up operations to ensure all road users travel safely during the upcoming Easter long weekend and beyond. A new report says that rape and sexual violence remain part of everyday life in areas of Sudan, even when fighting in the civil war has moved elsewhere. The medical charity MSF says abuse of women and girls by violent armed men persists as an insidious part of life for communities in the Western Darfur region. The BBC's Barbara Platt Asher explains why so many cases still go unreported.
The MSF report was based on more than 3,000 survivors of sexual violence who sought treatment at their clinics. But there are many, many more, MSF says, because it's difficult to access care. Services are scarce, traveling any distance is not secure, and there's a social stigma to admitting that you've been raped, and it is very widespread. So the MSF documented rapes that were carried out in hot conflict zones in northern Darfur, especially during the fall of the city of El Fasher, ethnic targeting, Arab fighters targeting non-Arab communities. But they also documented rapes carried out regularly in South Darfur, which is not on the front line. And there the report said rape had just become part of everyday life.
Recapping the top story, the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources has announced an increase in the price of fuel with effect from midnight tonight. For SFM News, I am Mondalambana. Headlines at 3:30.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Xolani Gwala will be back again for you 6 to 9 Monday here on SAFM.
And
thanks, Xolani. Good morning and welcome to Morning Talk with me, Kim Gabadeli.
The name is Bonge Kwala. Good to be with you till midday today. Let's engage South Africa.
Welcome to Morning Talk on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, with me, Rowena Bird.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM.
In sports this hour, Kaizer Chiefs launch ladies team, Williams backs Foster to return to scoring ways, and Proteas women I-Series win in Wellington. More details at 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All I can tell you is join the queue. Join the queue to fill up petrol, because the petrol prices go up, well, tomorrow, so basically midnight tonight. That's the bad news. The good news is that the price is only going to go up 3 rands 6 cents per litre. That's the good news. The price of diesel, 7 rand 37, going up, right? And the reason for the increase of only 3 rands and 6 cents is there's a fuel levy that we get charged as part of that payment that we make every day when we fill up. And that levy of 3 rands has been dropped. It's a temporary drop by the finance minister, effectively to cushion the blow. So that may not be the case next month, in May, that is. But for now, what may well have been 6 rands, 6 cents, is now 3 rands. Listen to this.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Okay, so that point about the fuel price increase, this is the voice of the Minister of Finance explaining the increase and the reduction of that subsidy that we normally pay in for now.
Say in the statement, we've decided for now to reduce the fuel levy by 3 rand, both petrol and diesel. For the month of April, up to the 5th of May. In between, mind you, I don't know where I'm going to find this money. Mind you, I don't even know where I'm going to find this money for now. In between, I must be working within the budget and say, how do I restructure in such a manner that I can be able to fund this thing? April alone is going to be 6 billion revenue loss. April alone is going to be 6 billion revenue loss. So, at the end of April, today we've gazetted what I'm talking about. That's why we had to issue a statement now and to provide clarity for the industry. To provide clarity for the industry. So, at the end of the month, in between now and the end of the month, we're going to be observing what is happening in international developments, what is the likely events. If we've got to provide a similar facility for the next other 2 months, May and June, I don't think we can sustain it beyond June. If we do, we'll probably do it in May and June. But the numbers, even for May and June, we're still going to work those numbers up, depending on how the changes are shaping up.
Okay, so that is the Minister of Finance. And I wonder what's your quick reaction to that? I'm suggesting the fuel price increases only 3 rand 6 cents. Do you pick up sarcasm in my voice? Is it cause to celebrate instead of 6 rand 6 cents? My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. Welcome to the show. You can give a reaction immediately to that. We'll talk about that just now. How do you react? You call in live. We're up for it. 086 000 2032. And then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. You know you can also tweet, right? Hashtag the National Pulse. When you do that, tag SFM Radio and you can tag me. There's a question from someone saying, Ashraf, what is the fuel levy used for anyway? Hey, that's a big question. I think government that comes from Kat in Pietermaritzburg. What is the fuel levy used for anyway? Government doesn't pay it. Consumers pay it. It's extra money for government, is it not? Well, yes. In fact, we are subsidizing them and they add that on to the overall price. And what they do with that money that gets into the fiscus is another question. In this case here, they have very kindly dropped that demand because it's not optional, right? They've dropped the demand for this month. Only this month. If you heard the minister, like, I don't know what's going to happen after the 5th of May. I don't know, right? Okay, that's your thoughts. We also, however, let's pick up the issue of the SAPS and the SANDF. You know, a few weeks, in fact, around the time of the State of the Nation address, points were made about the army being used in hotspot areas like the Cape Flats and parts of Joburg as well, right? Well, now, that's being implemented in the Cape Flats. Operation Prosper officially begins its task in the Cape Flats tomorrow. It'll target gang violence, extortion, taxi-related conflict, and the proliferation of illegal firearms. Let's find out more about what the real plan is and how they're going to measure their success with Brigadier Atlenda Mate, the SAPS National Spokesperson. Brigadier Mate, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
A very good afternoon to you and to the listeners.
Thank you. So I think we know why, but is this in fact an indictment that the policing as it stands just cannot cope with the high levels of crime in certain hotspots areas like the Cape Flats?
I don't think it's a matter of we cannot cope. It's a matter of we just need extra boots on the ground. I think when you look at our statistics in the last, 5 months, we have arrested 106 runners for the gangs and about 100 gang leaders in the Cape Flats alone. So it's not that we are overwhelmed or we have failed. We just need that extra assistance, and we do believe that if we've got more boots on the ground, then we can surely make an impact. Remember, the whole idea of bringing in the army is to ensure that we don't pull from the police stations, that the police stations can attend to the day-to-day crime, they service local communities, so that we don't pull that manpower away, but to ensure that day-to-day policing continues, but then we focus on these serious and violent crime, more organized crime. Okay, so that's the whole rationale on why I think the president then said, let's get the soldiers to come and assist so that we don't pull away from the stations.
Okay, let's then talk about decisions in terms of the hotspot areas. Who makes that call? Is it the Defence Force? Is it policing like yourself? How do we determine that you're going to the Cape Flats and not going to Galeshewe, for example?
Look, we look at our crime patterns, we look at the crime statistics, and then we jointly come up with an operational plan. So in the main, the police are going to be leading. For example, we have already indicated that we are going to be focusing on the largely gang-affected areas in the Western Cape. We all know, I don't think it's a secret, that Nyanga, Khayelitsha, Philippi, Mitchell's Plain, Mfuleni, Delft, and the Menenberg area, they're quite problematic when it comes to gang violence. So it means then we need to ensure heightened police visibility as well as the joint visibility with the SANDF. And another element is that, detectives and the blue uniform can concentrate actually on finding these perpetrators, and the army can then ensure heightened visibility while the detectives and the blue uniform is on the ground searching for these perpetrators.
How has this been received by the communities? I mean, we're talking, the Cape Flats, which I understand that will actually happen tomorrow, but clearly there's been consultation with the community, right? So A, community leaders, B, just, civil society residents. What has been the news? How have they received the news of the SANDF SAPS collaboration?
Very supportive. I think people are tired of crime, especially your serious and violent crime. You'll recall when the army, as soon as the army was deployed in Gauteng, a lot of communities from Westbury, your El Dorado Park, were so supportive of the initiative by the president. And I think we that's the kind of support that we need, because the communities play a role of being our eyes and ears on the ground. They are actually part of our intelligence. So if we've got that type of support, I'm sure they will steer us in the right direction. But I think also what makes it even more challenging is that now you find that young people are getting more and more involved in this crime. So we need a holistic approach. It's not only the SANDF and the police that's going to end the gang violence. Other government departments need to come in. Most importantly, the family unit needs to also stand up and say, we support this, we will cooperate, because these gangsters are coming from the family unit. Families are shielding their children because they are involved in the gang violence and they put food on the table. So if we can get kids back in school, we can ensure that we work towards ensuring there are more jobs. Perhaps we can win this war. But SANDF and SAPS alone are not going to win it. We need, firstly, family unit. It becomes committed and cooperates with law enforcement, and then thereafter the whole community as well, then takes a stand against this gang violence, because alone we can't, because we know that the community, some communities, some families, they are shielding their children.
What about and what's the plan in terms of the length of this collaboration in between the SANDF and the SAPS? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 6 months? Is it indefinitely?
I think for now, it's going to be a year. It's going to be a year-long operation where we really intensify our efforts in terms of your organized crime. You talk Western Cape concentrating mainly on the gang violence, other provinces as well, your illicit mining and so on. But it's not only centered around only these crime categories. Should there be a need for the army to be deployed elsewhere to assist the police in other areas, then Operation Prosper is all about that, to say, let us support the work of the police, let us show the authority, let us stamp the authority of the state, and hopefully try and really prevent and combat these serious and violent crimes in our communities.
There's been talk, and it's speculation, people speculate to say that if the army, members of the SANDF, collaborates with the police service, right, then their own work around border controls and other things will be compromised. Is that true at all?
I don't think so. I don't think this cohort is being taken from those that are already at the borders. I don't think so. But I think we are committed. I think what is important is that government has made resources and the capacity to fight crime available, and that we must rally behind that.
Just the last thing, in terms of this collaboration on the ground, that is, right? How do you see, residents in terms of the perception of an army actually getting involved at community level? What I'm saying is, ordinarily, and I go back to my original point, ordinarily you wouldn't have the army there. Now, you did make the point, yes, it increases numbers, but therefore, how do they see? Do they see that, yes, they desperately welcome them, but at the same time, they don't want them to be entrenched when it's actually not their jobs?
I think what is important is that it's a joint operation, and I think a lot of communication we have been doing a lot of communication on why there is a need for the joint combined forces to work together, which is SANDF and SAPS. And I think with that awareness, communities can now understand that the purpose really is to prevent and combat crime. We don't have a problem with the law-abiding citizens. The problem we have is with criminals. And if we can unite the law-abiding citizens with the army, with the police, surely we'll see crime being reduced at high levels and so on. So that is the main purpose. I think before the deployment, there was the mission readiness training. It was a joint training, which is a critical phase where we were preparing both soldiers and SAPS on how to work together. We took the SAPS on the SANDF on the SAPS use of force protocols, escalation procedures, our comms procedures, how we operate on the ground. But what is good is that each troop will have a commander. So SANDF will have their own commander, SAPS will have their commander, and together we will ensure that there is proper coordination and there is proper planning in terms of fighting crime. So in each area, there will always be police, and both the police and the SANDF and so on. So I think they are ready. Today's parade in Cape Town, it was all about a show of force, telling the nation that we are quite ready, we are prepared, and now is the time to rally behind these combined forces.
Okay, just quickly, while I've got you, I know that was not the brief, so if you can answer it, great. Any update on the mood and the state of the communities in the East London, Eastern Cape region following yesterday's uprisings, in effect, and of course the massive plunder in protest against what has been called or termed the Nigerian king?
I think we have managed to stabilize that area since yesterday. We have actually just arrived from the Eastern Cape, where the National Commissioner was formally announcing the newly appointed Provincial Commissioner of the Eastern Cape, Lieutenant General Boisile Ngata. But he strongly condemned in the strongest terms the incidents of violence and criminality. As the police, we always say we don't have a problem with people protesting within the confines of law. You can't say you're protesting, but you end up then damaging people's vehicles. You end up then damaging buildings and so on. So that kind of violence we're not tolerated. We have actually deployed more boots on the ground to ensure that we stabilize that area, but also get those that are behind these incidents of criminality. But I know that also the Department of COPTA is on the ground. The National Commissioner also had a conversation with the chief, the local chief there, in which they distanced themselves to the violence on the coronation of the king and so on. But we are saying our communities need to learn to approach matters better and not resort to violence each time there is a dispute of some sort.
Okay, point made. Thank you for your time, Brigadier Athlenda Mate, the SAPS National Spokesperson. This ahead of the plan tomorrow, where Operation Prosper, interesting name, don't you think? Operation Prosper will begin its work on the Cape Flats. It's this collaboration between the SANDF and the SAPS. So that happens tomorrow in Cape Town. Now, if you are from the Cape Flats region, I want to hear from you. What do you make of it? What do you feel about it? Are you on side with that? Is it good? Would you really want the army to interfere in what is civil society issues? Or is it a case of, hey, whatever it takes to make my community safer, that's what I want, no matter what? So I give it a thumbs up. Which one is it for you? 0614 104 107. Drop your WhatsApp right away to call in live 086 000 2032.
It's a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
We'll have an update on that 6th South African Investment Conference, and we'll do that shortly. It's a big event in our country. In the meantime, I need to hear from you. So what's your further thoughts, reaction in terms of the conversation we've just had regarding the Army and the SAPS coming together? That's one thing. You can also continue to comment about the drama of yesterday that we had, right? Here's another. Ashraf, in relation to the SANDF SAPS collaboration, in brief, authorities create a problem above and fight the effects at the bottom. Does that make any sense? I'm not sure if I really get what you're trying to say. Now, petrol prices, have you filled up already? Full tank in expectation of 6 Rand or 11 Rand, which was told to me in the conversation we had last week with the Retailers Association. As you know now, it's only 3 Rand, 6 cents, but because that subsidy that we subsidize to government has been dropped just for this month. Otherwise, we would have been paying 6 Rand something a litre. Let's get to these WhatsApps, yeah. All right, let me get Phineas to sort that out as we need to get to hear what you have to say. By the way, Did I?
Good afternoon, Ashraf Gada and your hardworking team of producers behind you. My name is Mpepum Pirenu from Limpopo Mkumbani village. Ashraf, this petrol price hike will make life difficult. Do not forget that electricity will be up by 8.76% tomorrow. Food price will go up too. Life is too hard in Mzansi. How is life going to be to a poor man in the street? Dog will eat its puppies these days. Peter Tosh once sang a song called Poor Men Feel It. It was not just a song, but it was reality. Thank you so much. I am Mpepum Pirenu, Limpopo Mkumbani village.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's get another.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I'm worried about the minister's plan, because he's saying he doesn't know where he will get the 6 million from tomorrow until the 5th of May, and from May to June again. He's not sure that we're gonna be able. What kind of minister is that? Minister Godongwani, even if you can listen to his words attentively, he doesn't understand what he's saying. Suppose I get some African.
But I mean, isn't he being honest about it? The point is, what's the reason for this increase? That should have been over 6 rands. Why do you think it's gone up that high? Surely you've been following the news and you know where we get oil from, and you know that there's a fixed crude oil price globally that's impacted by any disruption of supply. I mean, seriously, what would you expect the minister to say? What do you expect him to do? Let's hear another one out.
Good day, Mr. Ashraf. Thankful to the Minister of Finance to subsidize the fuel levy by 3 rand. It's rightfully so. They must do it because of their foreign policy. And you mustn't worry where you'll find the money. You must just cut out the fraudulent tenders. You must just cut out the corruption. Work with Treasury and find those people that were doing the corrupt things. And then they must also go fetch the money from the Guptas as well. Thank you, Vince.
Thanks, Vince. I mean, I hear all of that, and listen, Vince, we're on side with all of that, but that doesn't solve the problem in a month. You know, we're talking on a month-to-month basis, something that's been propelled by this Israel-USA attack on Iran and the Iranian reprisals, and as a result of that, and this closing of the Hormuz, the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, all of that has an impact. That's immediate. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners of SAFM. Oh, this petrol hike. Ashraf, I think we're going to park this car and drive the bicycle once because the petrol is too expensive. Hi, Doni Machaba from Utokamukumin. Thanks.
Okay, I am saying, I'm saying it's only going up 3 rand 6 cents. Do you get my point? Here's another.
The minister cannot find money to subsidize this petrol increase. Why don't all these ministers and politicians take a cut in salary? I mean, they've just awarded themselves an increase. The blue lights and private protection are costing a fortune. They must suffer. This is Morag from Kovo.
Who must suffer? I'm not sure I'm reading this correctly. There's a long-term plan about revenue losses and about corruption, but there's an imminent issue that's brought upon by a global issue. Like, I'm really battling to understand what is being said, right? 3:30, here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the city of Tshwane has warned commuters of disruptions to bus services due to ongoing fuel supply challenges. The Border Management Authority says it has begun rolling out its operations for the Easter period, and EU foreign ministers are meeting in Kyiv to discuss further support for Ukraine, which has become a critical issue in the face of cuts by the Trump administration in the US. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound slow moving towards Marlborough Drive, a stationary vehicle on the N12 westbound after Rietfontein interchange, and a stationary vehicle on the N1 northbound at Rigel Avenue. In KZN, there's a crash on the N3 northbound at Cliffdale interchange. All lanes are blocked, so you're asked to expect delays. And there's a stationary vehicle on the N2 northbound after the N3. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive, queuing at the N2 highway, the N1 outbound, slow moving on Plattekloof Hill, and Victoria Road is slow moving through Camps Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Chumi, you have a Bafana story to talk about, right?
Yes, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Bafana captain Ronald Williams has backed Lyle Foster, saying that he believes the striker will overcome his current struggle with confidence. Foster missed 3 opportunities to score for Bafana on Friday as they drew 1-1 against Panama at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. But Williams believes that it could just take 1 goal to get Foster back on track. Kickoff for today's match is at 7:30, and remember, the game is in Cape Town. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs have launched their own women's team, the Kaizer Chiefs Ladies, which will compete in the Gauteng Sasol League. Chiefs bought the Springs Home Sweepers, which was founded by former Banyana coach Joseph Mkonza, and the team will be coached by Unatim Bena and assisted by Justice Kuno, and has a squad of 24 players, including former Banyana midfielder Mamelo Makabani, along with junior international Zanele Kunyamani and Katleho Mohale. Elsewhere, human rights campaign group Amnesty has warned that the 2026 World Cup could become a stage for repression practices. In a report, Amnesty highlighted risks for fans, players, journalists, workers, and local communities across the 3 host nations, United States, Mexico, and Canada. Now, the organization pointed to immigration enforcement and mass detention in the U.S. as the starkest threat, while also warning of restrictions on freedom of expression and peaceful protest. The tournament will feature 78 matches in the U.S., 13 each in Mexico and in Canada. And remember that the tournament will be broadcast live on SABC3, SABC Plus, and SABC radio stations. In cricket, South Africa's Proteas women will look to build on their thrilling opening victory. This is when they face New Zealand in the 2nd ICC Women's Championship One-Day International at the Basson Reserve in Wellington tomorrow. The visitors lead the 3-match series 1-0 after a 2-wicket win in Christchurch. Ayabonga Kaka starred with a career-best 6 wickets, while skipper Sne Luce, set to earn her 150th ODI cap, praised the impact of young players and also stressed the importance of securing valuable qualification points for the 2029 World Cup. Anything's off with rugby. South Africa's Blitzboks head to Hong Kong Sevens with the injury concerns over several key players. This is despite securing the 2025-26 Sevens Series title. Rising star Junior Cupido has been ruled out with an ankle injury, while Christy Grobler and Walt Human are also sidelined. And coach Philip Snyman says that Grobler may return in May, but Human is not likely to feature again this season. The Blitzboks, defending world champions after last year's triumph in Los Angeles, will begin their campaign in Hong Kong from the 17th to the 19th of April, and their main aim is to break their duck at the iconic venue. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Thanks for that, Tumi. Well, and as you know, that game tonight in Cape Town, full house. There's a wonderful sense of expectation. So bottom line, if you're in Cape Town, will you be at the Cape Town Stadium tonight? Hey, fan walk, what's the plan? Tell me. Bafana jersey, yellow, green, which one are you wearing?
You're listening to Koketso Sachane on The Meeting Point.
I can't remember who you were fighting with the last time that we spoke, but you were fighting.
Yeah, I know. We do have to fight sometimes, and sometimes we have to be a little more.
One of the things they say about incumbent candidates is that they must prove themselves to have been effective while they are in office. Now that is not new.
The Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane. X at SAFM Radio, and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we've got more to come. In fact, we've got your thoughts and your comments about some of the issues, including talking about AFCON. Well, you know AFCON and what happened. Like, who are the AFCON champions 2026? Your answer will tell you everything that you may want to talk about there. We're going to chat now to Patrick Rode, who's a FIFA licensed football agent, tech, sports and media lawyer. And we're talking about just that we know it's 2 weeks since that incredible decision that effectively said, Senegal, you're not the African Cup champions. Morocco, you are. You remember Morocco? You lost, well, you won 3-0. What are the big lessons to learn from that? Patrick, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse. Patrick, hi. All right, we are struggling to just pick up that connection, and hopefully we'll do that maybe now. Patrick, can you hear me? You maybe need to unmute yourself, perhaps, if that is the problem. Perhaps if you can unmute, then I should be able to. I can pick you up visually very clearly. If you can do that, or maybe it's from our side, we'll try and sort it out. Listen, let me just tell you. So a couple of more things we need to be picking up on. One is some of the big lessons to learn. Then later on, that conference, that investment conference that's taking place, in Johannesburg today, we're going to feature some key highlights from there, right? Patrick, are you there? Can I connect with you now? All right, we are struggling to hear Patrick. Let's see if I can get Keys to try and sort that out in just a moment, because I certainly do not wish to miss this no matter what. In the meantime, you can continue to comment. Ashraf, the police continues to surprise me. The police did not arrest the so-called king and his friends in the Eastern Cape. When citizens get angry and fight, suddenly we have police all over. The police continue to fail us by Tabang in the Vanderbijlpark region. Right, more comments from you, including, issues in the fuel and the Middle East.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful winelands. Now, I'm not going to join the fuel rush. I'm set. I'm not going to travel this weekend. But in any event, what the minister is not telling us, there's about 4 long weekends for April, and people are going to travel a lot. So, in fact, they're not really going to lose 6 billion. It's going to be less than that, because people are going to travel like crazy, so people will fill up their cars. So, don't come with, where am I going to find the 6 billion? You will make some of it back. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, but normally they would have made extra from people traveling anyway, and then still this. I mean, hey, I'm not here to defend anybody, but just understand there's a global problem that impacts every single country. Here's another.
Hi, it's Brad from Durban. The world needs to understand that the Middle East oil producers have got us in a tight grip. We need to get away from that and boycott those guys and get oil from Africa, from the US, or wherever else oil is produced. Yeah. Leave those people in the desert.
But that suggests that you see nothing wrong with the Americans attacking Iran and what's good. Like, that's not the problem, is it? Donald Trump, by the way, from his Truth platform, said this. Listen to this one. This is today. We need to have like a Donald Trump segment on the show every day. All of these this is what he said. All of these countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number 1, buy from the US. We have plenty. Number 2, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. That's in capital letters, just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. President D.J. Chi. I really do think we should have a feature every day. Trump said, Trump talk, something like that. That makes sense. Not TED talk, Trump talk. Right. Let's play this.
Raf, I was just listening earlier to Zakina's show. She interviewed Davy Ruth, the economist, and he was very unhappy about this cutting of the fuel levy. He said the country actually needs it badly, and listening to the finance minister, sounds like it. But he said it would be far better for us if they cut the 9% electricity hike that's coming for us. He said that needs to be cut down, way down, and he said that it's actually totally unjustified, and it should help the poor a lot more.
Okay, but it maybe can be both, isn't it? You think it's an either or?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Anonymous here. South Africa does have money. They should start by cutting the cabinet size and recover the oil that they've been legally sold. And there's also they should cut RAF. We do have money. Gondwana can't tell us we don't have money.
There's a tweet from Mario Naufal, who tweets extensively on global issues. I mean, this is what he says. I'm honestly very upset. I won't even use the four-letter word that he used. He says, Israel's defense minister just blatantly said they will occupy 10% of Lebanon even after the war, and over 600,000 people that have their homes there cannot return. And also today, Netanyahu is saying that after the Iran war, the Strait of Hormuz needs to be bypassed using pipelines from Saudi Arabia to the Mediterranean. Okay, there we are. So much to analyze in that region. Let's play another comment. In fact, what I'll do, let me tell you this much. It's March 31st today. Okay, it's my wife's birthday, so that's, I'll tell her happy birthday together when I meet her, but that's the one thing. It also means in a day, many people in the media space tend to say goodbye. They move on to other things. Okay, before you're wondering, I'm not going to say goodbye to you at all. But Themba Dlamini is a name that you've heard often on this show, isn't it? So Themba Dlamini has been the producer of this particular show since we started it, since I returned to SAFM for the last 2 years. But he's been linked to SAFM as a producer for 19 years, so almost 2 decades. And Themba's decided that he wants to move on to other things, other challenges. I don't quite know what it is. If it is up to him, he would try and make sure that Orlando Pirates wins the league. He'll make a plan. And Arsenal wins the league and the Champions League. That would be his crowning dream. So I don't know whether he's going to be signed up by them in some advisory capacity. But what I do know is that come tomorrow, Themba Dlamini will not be here. He's moved on. And he's been such an instrumental part of the entire SAFM landscape, producing many shows from breakfast to drive time to early afternoon, basically everything and everywhere. And Themba, listen, just one final thought. Of all the things I'll remember about you is the trip you and I made to Thohoyandou. We went for the inauguration for the Chancellor of UniVed. And you remember that. And I think the plan was, we were told, when you land at this new Polokwane airport, it was just before the World Cup 2010, it's a short trip, like a 20-minute drive, that'll get you to UniVet. As you and I now know, I think it took an hour and a half just to get from Polokwane to what was called Louis Trichardt, around that region, and then take another 70 k's detour to Thohoyandou to get to UniVed University. And Kgalema Motlanthe was, inaugurated on that day. So that's a trip we made. And if you make one big trip with one person, you never forget that for the rest of your life. So Themba, that's my big story to you on your final day with us. And I think certainly for myself and Keys and Vusani, and I think the entire SAFM team, it's a case of, hey, you've made your mark on this show. You've made your mark on SAFM, and we wish you well. in all that you do. I often talk about champions. Well, there you are. You're quite the champion. Go well, Themba.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's get into other things, right? So your responses are welcome because you're part of the pulse. Here's another, and there are many like that. Every time the world sneezes, South Africa convulses. Wasn't the Russia-Ukraine war supposed to take oil to $200 and petrol to 40 rands or something? Why should I care now when the Ukraine speculation amounts to nothing or to naught? Okay, well then don't care. Don't care. Really. You're right, isn't it? Why should you care? Point made. Yes, some comments from you.
Ashraf, evening, my brother Ashraf. How are you today? Yes, he's Papi in Cape Town. Ashraf, we are ready to go to watch Bafana and Panama on our way. Nice weather in Cape Town, sun shining, beautiful weather. This weather is showing us we are going to win this game of today. Yeah, we are just praying for Bafana to just give us 1-0. I'm going to watch the soccer with all my family, so I don't want to come back with stress. I thank you, Ashraf.
Why only 1-0? What about more, man? I like 3-0. I really like 3-0. Why only 1-0? Okay, by the way, so, earlier on, I read about Donald Trump's latest comments. As I did say, we need to have a Trump talk daily. And, basically his message to the UK, and I'll repeat it, with regard to the Straits of Hormuz, right? He said, go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore. Let's ask Thembisa Fakulia about it. He's certainly a man from AfriCert who has his eye on global politics as well as, Middle East and everything else. Thembisa, good to connect with you, man. Thanks for joining us for the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I did say, there's not a day Trump doesn't say something that is groundbreaking, but every one of them has an effect. Now, when a person says to his US or UK counterpart, like, just take the Straits, man, just take it, how should we, as the global community, respond to that?
I think we are in very strange territory in terms of our politics and understanding of politics. And as I've said before, we're using wrong instruments in trying to understand Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump requires not political scientists, no social commentators to understand his politicking, but something different which involves the medical understanding. Because what he's done is introducing something really unfamiliar to many of us who've been observing and studying politics. What he said, for example, about the UK and what he said about the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting that, of course, that he has failed in the Strait of Hormuz, is basically telling them they must come and buy from the United States because the United States got more oil. And if they don't want to buy from the United States, they must go and get oil by themselves. In other words, ensure that the ships that are exporting oil from the Gulf are protected. The United States is not going to be helping them henceforth. And again, he fails to understand that the objectives and the mandate of NATO has got nothing to do with joining other people's wars of choice. So he was expecting that NATO members were going to assist him in the Strait of Hormuz, but that's not the mandate of NATO. And to have the president of one of the most powerful country in the world not understanding that and sulking because these countries did not want to do that is actually really, really troubling and worrying.
How, there's the sense of expectation from Donald Trump where he calls upon NATO to assist, and they don't. And then he calls upon the UK specifically, and they don't, and maybe others. And like the school ground bully, that's my words, he is offended and literally says, like, I won't share my cool drink with you. How should, again, even that, the world leaders, not you and I, how should they respond to that?
Well, there's no other way of responding. You must remember these leaders are also on the back foot within their own countries. This is one of the most unpopular wars, and if any of them does go to Trump's risk at the moment, they do risk being voted out. So all of them are concerned about their careers. But at the same time, they also understand that they are also vulnerable. They've got assets and investment in the Middle East, particularly in the Gulf. If they do join this war, they then also become targets. And I don't think any of them are willing to do that, particularly countries in the United Kingdom who are very, very well invested in the region, not only in terms of military presence, but also other commercial investments, which might just be targeted by Iran, who has, at least until now, has not been bluffing in terms of their statements when they say they're going to do something. They've tended to really go through with those promises. So I think many of them are wary of that. And Donald Trump, of course, this, as everybody else is saying, it was a war of choice. It was not a war of necessity. There was no imminent threat by Iran, as Joe Kent, the former counterintelligence head, has said. So many of them are basically counting and looking at their position, and they understand that this could just mean big trouble for their careers in their countries, but importantly, it might just backlash against their investment and installations in the region.
Yeah. And the Trump point, the fact that he can speak and pronounce with expectation. So when he talks about countries coming to help them, his expectation is they need to adhere or else, right? What does that say about his psyche? Meaning, what has led him to believe that if he just asks and snaps his fingers, countries must rally in a way that no other country, certainly the South Africans, can't do that?
Well, it's hubris, and this is power. And again, as I've said, we are using our own instruments in terms of trying to understand Donald Trump. The political scientists and the social scientists are going to miss the point in trying to understand how he functions. I think we need something bigger than just political understanding, because nobody can understand how you go into this war and expect other people to come in and assist you, or other countries to come in and assist you, who have got no interest in the war, who've got investments in the region. They must come and assist you after you've started this war. It's pure bullying mentality, as you correctly put it. There's no understanding. In fact, even the Gulf countries have been telling him not to go on with this war, but notwithstanding all of those cautions from countries such as Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, he decided to go ahead because of Benjamin Netanyahu and because of Israel's ambition of obliterating, in inverted commas, Iran. And we see what has happened so far, including, by the way, the Israelis, who also do not expect that Iran was going to respond in a manner in which they responded. The Israelis have been living under the bunkers for the past 30 days. Israel, on a daily basis, is getting hit by Iran. They're getting bankrupt because the interceptors are not functioning properly. So this has been a mess and a miscalculation, and now Donald Trump is seeking an off-ramp, and that off-ramp suggests that he must invite other people to come and clear up the mess.
Let's just talk, before I let you go, regarding the Gulf states. And of course, like, let's say Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and those that make up the United Arab Emirates. First of all, most of those countries, in fact, have American naval bases there. And then, so two things. The Iranian decision to target those naval bases, which is not on American soil proper, but de facto is American anyway. And the response from those countries. What's your thoughts?
Well, the thoughts are that not all of them are upset, by the way. There are a number of them who are happy because many of them have been trying to get rid of the Americans, given that this is not the first time that you had Iran targeting them, but also not the first time that you had American abandoning some of its allies in the Gulf in particular and prioritizing Israel, notwithstanding that they've been spending billions of dollars more than what Israel has been spending. In fact, Israel has been receiving billions of dollars from the United States, but these countries in the Gulf have been spending billions in trying to protect themselves from the threats outside, including now we know the threats from Iran. So they want to see the back of the United States out of the region, and the region must be replaced by something different, a new military configuration of some sort. So that's the first point. But the other point is they won't even think about, I think, notwithstanding the rhetoric that we've heard from countries such as United Arab Emirates in terms of retaliating against Iran, but once they do that, the Arab streets will view them as fighting on the side of Israel, which is a country that has committed genocide in Gaza and continue to threaten the welfare of the countries in the region. But importantly, that has continued to humiliate the entire Arab world and Muslim world. And for the first time, you've got a country that's pushing back on this bully in the region. So joining this war against Iran is likely to backlash against the countries in the region. But importantly, we have seen the power of Iran in terms of hitting back at his enemies. Right now, they're hitting Israel, which is 1,800 plus kilometers away, going through airspaces, particularly that of Jordan, and also going through this multi-layered defense system called the Iron Dome inside Israel and still hitting Israel. So they know that if they do that, chances are they'll also be obliterated in a matter of days because these are very small countries. So they are at the point where they've got no other choice but to negotiate with Iran.
Let me end with this. And I gather this question gets asked maybe at least once a week, definitely once a day on this show. South Africa's role right now regarding the Middle East itself and then dealings with Iran. What's your analysis of it right now? And I understand that could change, from a month ago or 2 months ago, but right now?
Well, South Africa right now, one needs to ensure that it's part of the discussions of the new regime. For the first time, we have a chance to go and negotiate and make sure that our national interests are served. We know that at the moment ships to South Africa or bearing South African flag or countries that are going to be serving South Africa are kind of treated friendly by Iran. So we need to ensure that as this new regime on Strait of Hormuz is negotiated or discussed, South Africa is at the table to have that discussion, and we have the chance to do so. And one hopes, of course, that no one is sleeping on the job. That's the first point. The other point, I think we also need to prepare ourselves if the Bab el-Mandeb, which is the Red Sea, is shut by the Houthis who have started sending missiles to Israel. We are likely to be getting a lot of maritime traffic coming our way, avoiding the Suez. Again, we need to prepare ourselves from those possible opportunities coming our way. The other point, which I think is very important, is the Iranians have started charging in yuan. In other words, they've abandoned the US dollar. This is part of the de-dollarization, of course. We need to ensure that we take advantage of the situation, start building up reserves, yuan reserves, under the Chinese currency reserves, so that we are fit for purpose when the opportunities come. And I think these are, at least on top of my head, some of the things that we need to start looking at. Yuan reserves in terms of making sure that we also start charging and building up those reserves so that you can start transacting with a new currency that is going to dominate politics, at least on the Indian Ocean side. Lastly, I think, is us to be part of a discussion or initiative discussion on the Indian Ocean Coalition. The Atlantic dialogues have started. Perhaps we can start Indian Ocean dialogues because the traffic and the business on the Indian Ocean is certainly going to increase, and it will require fit-for-purpose, logistically ready countries such as South Africa. In other words, we need to make sure that we prepare ourselves.
And as you said, I can imagine a person listening and say, hey, opportunity for us in the midst of adversity. That's the way the world goes. Thembisa Fakode from AfriSID, appreciate your time. And thanks for those insights on the goings-on in that hot potato called the Middle East. The news at 4 years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, commuters warned of disruptions to bus services in Tshwane, and BMA rolls out operations for Easter period. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good afternoon. The city of Tshwane has warned commuters of disruptions to bus services due to ongoing fuel supply challenges. The metro says all Tshwane bus service depots have run out of fuel, resulting in a reduced number of buses on the road and disruptions to scheduled trips. 65 out of 155 shifts were able to operate from Monday, with the city warning that services could be further affected if fuel supplies are not restored in time. Executive Mayor of Tshwane, Dr. Nasib Pimoya, says contingency measures are being considered to manage the impact.
The nation must consider doing the approach that we took in during COVID, where people must work from home. But internally, we are prioritizing the key service delivery departments. For instance, the electricity guys must not suffer. They mustn't be unable to go to households or to substations to fix what is broken. That goes for water, that goes for TMPD, Emergency Services Department, that goes with our fleet.
The Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources has announced an increase in the price of fuel with effect from midnight tonight. Both grades of petrol will go up by 3 Rand 6 cents per litre, while diesel will shoot up by between 7 Rand 37 and 7 Rand 51 per litre. Illuminating Paraffin sees the highest increase on record of 11 Rand 67 per litre. The latest adjustments to the fuel price come after government stepped in to cut the general fuel levy by 3 Rand a litre for a 1-month period ending on the 5th of May. This is expected to cost the fiscus around 6 billion Rand in lost revenue. Spokesperson for the department, Lerato Nzoko.
Illuminating paraffin for wholesale will increase by 11 Rand and 67 cents per litre. The single maximum national retail price for illuminating paraffin will increase by 15 Rand and 60 cents per litre. Maximum retail price for LP gas will increase by 1 Rand and 8 cents per kilogram and 1 Rand and 23 cents per kilogram in the Western Cape.
The Border Management Authority says it has begun rolling out its operations for the Easter period. Assistant Commissioner for Operations and Law Enforcement, the BMA Mkabela Balene, says the plan is targeting ports of entry. Balene and other delegation of senior management were updating the Home Affairs Portfolio Committee on the state of readiness for the Easter period.
And our plan is based on the 5-pillar action plan. The first pillar 1 is intelligence, threats and risk analysis. This is a full threat and risk assessment that we've received from the National Border Technical NBTC, National Border Targeting Center. Pillar 2 is on the proactive approach. Pillar 3 is the combat approach. Pillar 4, reactive approach. Pillar 5 is the communication and liaison.
National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemula says police are following leads to bring to book those behind the violent activities that took place at Kukombo City in the Eastern Cape yesterday. 10 vehicles owned by Ethiopian and Somalian nationals who run spaza shops were torched. The incident stems from a march which was held over the coronation of a Nigerian Igbo king. Masemula says they are hot on the heels of the perpetrators.
Damage to vehicles and buildings unnecessary. And South Africans everyone has a right to protest unarmed, but not in the way and the fashion that they behaved yesterday. It is uncalled for. And those that are involved, they will face the full might of the law. We know who they are, and we will collect them one by one so that they end up accounting for what they have done.
EU foreign ministers are meeting in Kyiv to discuss further support for Ukraine, which has become a critical issue in the face of cuts by the Trump administration in the US. Ministers will look at ways to release a $100 billion loan that Hungary is blocking. The BBC's Vitaly Shevchenko reports.
They will be talking about how to navigate their rather complicated relationship with the Americans, because the feeling here in Kyiv is that the Americans are so firmly focused on the Gulf right now, and they're so friendly towards Vladimir Putin, that it's easy for the government in Ukraine to feel abandoned by the Americans, and Kaja Kallas and the Ukrainian officials will be trying to find out ways of replacing America with new partners.
Recapping the top story, the city of Tshwane has warned commuters of disruptions to bus services due to ongoing fuel supply challenges. I'm Ondulambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the Sour Stormers aim for European Rugby Champions Cup League battle over Swallow status intensifies, and teen sensation Survashni Sparks India fast track calls. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, there's a stationary vehicle on the R21 southbound at Griffiths Road ramp. The M1 southbound slow moving towards Crown Interchange and Main Road northbound has a crash near Dunmaglass Road. In KZN, the M4 northbound queuing towards Broadway Durban North exit, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Market Road, and a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound at Key Ridge West. In Cape Town, Main Road northbound slow moving through Muizenberg, on Voortrekker Road eastbound slow moving traffic through Maitland, and a stationary vehicle on the N2 outbound at Rapenburg Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse, Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So we'll have a chat with regarding that whole CAF issue, lessons to learn really from the Morocco-Senegal issue with Patrick Roder coming up shortly. I know we battled to get hold of him earlier, but that will happen just now. In the meantime, you know, we chatted to Brigadier Athlenda Mate about the police and the SANDF now joint operations in the Cape Flats, Mitchell's Plain, many other areas too, right? And got her thoughts on it, which you can catch that podcast later. But what about civil society? What do they make of that? Now, Francina Lucas is the Provincial Community Police Forum Board Chairperson in that region. Francina, thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thanks for having us.
Thank you. I mean, you're part of the, CPF. You're obviously very concerned about policing. Having said that, is this a good thing where the army actually now comes in and, does what the police can't do?
Yes, we would say at this time that we are in, it is a good thing, and we are supporting the deployment of the army to work with the South African Police Service to bring about stability on the Cape Flats in particular. We know it's not a long-term solution. It is not sustainable, and we would like to see in the long term other interventions that are more sustainable to bring about peace in our communities.
What sort of interventions would you suggest or recommend?
Yes, look, the important thing for us is that policing remains the domain of the South African Police Service. And we want to see in the long term a police service which are more empowered, a police service which are more equipped and resourced to deal with the challenges that we as communities are confronted with regards to crime. We would also like to see more interventions which are socially based in our communities that will address the systemic issues of unemployment, poverty, and substance abuse, to mention but a few. So those are long-term interventions that we would like to see, and we believe those interventions will be more sustainable. At this current juncture, we welcome the deployment of the army to bring about that stability, but we are looking beyond the 12 months of deployment of the army.
And you believe that the army will bring the type of stability that you want?
We believe the army will assist SAPS in reducing the crime. It will assist the South African Police Service to bring about more stability in our crime-ridden communities, those hotspot areas that we all know so well in the Western Cape.
What has been the public response? Not even you from a CPF perspective, just, people living in those communities. What are they saying?
Look, we went around today as part of the event that was held, the parade that was held today. And I must say, as we went around in the community, the reaction was more positive because our community really has been plunged in conflict, has been suffering a lot under violence and criminality. And therefore, I think in the main, the deployment of the army at this stage is welcomed.
Just the last thing, when we talk about bringing stability, right, in those communities, what would stability mean for you?
Stability would mean that our children will be able to walk to school without fearing being a victim of a bullet that might, hit them. Stability would mean that women feel safer to walk around in the community. And it would really mean that, communities are able to do things, socialize without fearing an attack, without fearing being robbed. And that would really speak to the stability in our community. Stability also without having these gang wars and gang fights happening in our communities.
Well, I'll tell you what, we all hope that it will be successful. There's got to be a sense of normality. You can't be on a normal day, 5 people die in a shootout, and that's a normal society. That is an abnormal society in that sense. Francina Lucas, appreciate your time. Provincial Community Police Forum Board Chairperson, appreciate your inputs. Well, how normal is what happened regarding Senegal and Morocco? That's not pretty normal, is it? We'll talk about that next.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Yes, when I heard that 2 weeks ago, it was like the late night, 11 o'clock or something. And when I saw that, Morocco were the champions, the African Nations Cup champions, I'm like, I better check if this is one of those fake news stories, because right now there's a proliferation of just nonsense on social media that you find is either AI generated or just outright fake news. So you have to double check and triple check and so on and so on. Well, we know it's true, not that everybody believes it's right. Let's understand, what are the big lessons to have learned from all of this? With me is Patrick Rode, who's a FIFA licensed football agent, as well as, tech, sports and media lawyer. Patrick, much appreciate your time and glad we can finally connect.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. Great to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Right. So here we are. What for you are the lessons to have learned from this? We had Senegal. I mean, we know the drama. They had this game. A penalty was awarded. Senegal were not happy. They walked off the pitch. They stayed off for a long time. They were coaxed back. Sadio Mane amongst the players. They come out. The Moroccans miss a penalty. Senegal wins the game. They're champions. But that's all changed. What's the lessons to learn from this?
It had it all, didn't it, that game? It was absolutely crazy. But I think the biggest lesson that we can learn is that in sport, there is no self-help, right? There's no right to self-help. And if you believe a decision is wrong and it has gone wrong against you in the game, then the answer can be a legal challenge, but it's certainly not walking off the pitch, right? The moment that Senegal left the field without the permission of the referee, the regulatory clock started ticking.
And when you say the regulatory clock, explain that. What does it mean, the regulatory clock? Because I would think there's a time limit on that, right?
Well, no, that's not what I mean. How I mean it, but I think the thing is that one thing is the sporting decisions that are made on the field, right, and the other thing is regulatory issues. So we've got the AFCON regulations, which every African country has subordinated itself to, and which apply to these types of competitions. And there's an article in the AFCON regulations that says that if you withdraw from a game, if you refuse to play, if you leave the field, then that results in forfeiture and results in you losing the game. And I think obviously we can disagree about whether this is a harsh decision, just because Senegal in the end then came back and finished the game, and the game was finished, and also the referee decided he wanted to finish the game. But from a strict regulatory point of view, this is a very consistent decision by CAF.
So are you saying, according to your understanding, whatever the reason, that means whether they were justified about being angry or not, the moment Senegal left the pitch without the permission of the referee, which is basically what happened, they had de facto already forfeited the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was different decisions during the game that are questionable, right? One is the VAR decision. That's an on-field decision, and there's this principle of referee finality in football that says that if a referee makes a decision during the game, then that can't be contested. The other thing is the Article 82 rule that we're talking about, right, which concerns withdrawals, and which says that if for any reason whatsoever a team leaves the ground before the regular end of the football match without the authorization of the referee, then it shall be considered loser. And in law, we say this is a mandatory rule, right? If the disciplinary board or the CAF come to the decision that this actually happened during the game, then the consequence is final. It's basically also stated in the AFCON rules in Article 84. It says that the team then loses a match 3-0, and that basically will be expelled. That team will be expelled from the competition. So, from a strict legal point of view, this is a very consistent decision, and it doesn't surprise me.
But what does surprise every one of us, if that were the case, why did they, even when they went back on the pitch, whoever coerced them to get back on the pitch, why then was it necessary? Meaning, the referee knows the rules, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Ashraf. This is a very uncomfortable question, right? The referee, he saw everything. He had the power to end the match on the night and award a forfeit. And obviously he chose not to do so. He let the players come back on the pitch, blew the final whistle, and then the disciplinary board comes in 6 weeks later and decides against what the referee basically did on the pitch. So this is actually something that CAF has to look at and answer for themselves. Yeah.
But I mean, there's this law, and it's not just unwritten, it's like a de facto fact that the referee's decision is final. So even, we often have seen it when referees make poor decisions. We can argue, contest it, they can be taken to task later, but they can't change the result once the referee makes a decision. So the fact that the referee then chose, in his wisdom, to bring the teams back on, that means to allow the teams back onto the pitch, that means he saw that. Shouldn't that then be the case of the referee's decision is final? So doesn't that supersede anything else? And therefore, whatever we may think about legislative processes or regulatory processes, in fact, the referee for that game is right.
That's a good point that you're making, and I think it's an argument that Senegal will rely on during their appeal to CAS. As you know, this decision has been appealed by Senegal and will now be will be discussed by the Court of Arbitration of Sports in Lausanne in Switzerland. It's definitely a good argument. Referee finality is not even an unwritten law. It exists. There's a FIFA law about it, and it's a thing. However, the AFCON regulations also need to be applied, and in this case, CAF decided that the regulatory issue overrules referee finality.
So, I mean, there's been this uproar, and amongst the things, like, why would it have taken that long? Just to be clear, was it sparked off by the Moroccans who actually appealed? Because often people, players, teams are infuriated about decisions in the moment, and then they go back home and it's like, okay, we lost, we were robbed, but fine, let's move on. I take it the Moroccans actually appealed and followed through on that appeal, and therefore the committee had to respond to that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my understanding was that there was a disciplinary committee that initiated proceedings directly after the game, but which only found certain disciplinary measures to be appropriate. And then Morocco protested that decision, and it took CAF 6 weeks to then come out with another decision which overturned the decision that was made on the day that awarded Senegal the trophy, and now it's gone to Morocco. I mean, from Morocco's point of view, I can totally understand that they protested this decision, just as it's now Senegal's right to go to CAS with this decision, and maybe even with the hope of having it overturned again.
So now, yes, whether the decision was made in 1 day later or 2 months later, both are bizarre because, as we've said, probably should have been done on the pitch anyway, right? the decision is made. I mean, you know all about the uproar. And interestingly enough, a lot of it has been targeted first to Patrice Motsepe, the president of CAF, South African, of course, who's been praised up to now for effectively tapping into the up to now dormant wealth of CAF and its absolute marketability, right? Suddenly he's been knocked about, like he's being pro-Moroccan versus Senegal, something's in cahoots, they've been bribed, and a whole lot of things have come into play to the point where there's not a day on social media where someone or the other of substance is saying Motsepe needs to step down, he's not worthy of it. What do you make of that?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't want to speculate, and I'm not in any position to talk about the politics that might be in play there. I think if you look at the statistics, I think it will now come down to CAS and what CAS decides. And if you look at the statistics of cases being overturned at CAS, I think it's somewhere between 30 and 35%. So I think it's not very likely. Meaning in the end, I think the decision that CAF came to here was the right decision from a legal perspective. Obviously, there's lots of different arguments that Senegal can still make, and they may be valid arguments. But in the end, I think CAF applied the rules of the game here. Even though obviously it's very unfortunate that it took them 5 to 6 weeks to come to such a decision. And I mean, I'm also a supporter of. I enjoy watching football, and for me, it's also not a very nice thing to see teams being, you said, robbed or being decisions being overturned. But I think in the end, from a strictly legal point of view, it was the right decision.
And also just staying with Motsepe once again, you just. I understand the Secretary General is actually quit on the one end. Many are saying, well, you see, there's again problems within CAF, sudden resignation. But also, he made the point, Motsepe, under fire, by the way, from many others, to say he cannot influence the decision-making of the committee charged with that. I mean, I take it, he really doesn't have a choice, isn't it?
No, I think it's not his choice. I think there was a committee that, was in charge with making a decision here, and they were the ones that came out with the decision. And I don't know what the actual decision-making process was within CAF, but I don't think it's fair to make him responsible for this.
Now, on the other hand, Senegal played a game as many countries have been playing right now, and they paraded their trophy. And I mean, the leader of Senegal has had it at his home, so it's a clear sense of defiance. One thing is going to the appeals court, right, for sport, but the other is right now they're not giving it to anybody in custody. They're like, it's ours, we're holding on to it. What do you make of that protest, effectively, where the trophy was paraded at the weekend?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I mean, being a lawyer, I think there are measures that can be taken by Senegal. They could try and get an injunctive relief. I don't know what the prospects of success won't be very high for them to get one of these. But I think, I mean, in the end, they have to adhere to the decision, right? They have to respect it. I guess it was made, in good faith. They have all the right in the world to contest it at CAS and go to CAS in Switzerland and ask them for a decision. But I think they need to respect the legal process, and at the end we'll see whether this decision will potentially maybe be overturned again. But for the time being, I think they need to respect that this is now the decision.
And lastly, I mean, this may sound, many people are describing it as farcical anyway, right? But would you see that long term, whatever, CAS replies with, that this could be a complete game changer in football? Sometimes something like this needs to happen. In cricket, it happened with the South Africa semi-final of the 1992 World Cup of 22 runs to win of 1 ball. It changed everything. Algeria, West Germany playing to a draw to ensure they both qualified for the next stage of the World Cup at the expense of Algeria, and that changed the rules where they all played on the same game at the same time. Do you see this potentially then changing the powers of a referee?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a completely new decision, right? We haven't had VAR for a long time, so this is something that's involving, the element of VAR, the uncertainty around VAR, a team being very disgruntled and mad at the decision that was made by the VAR, right? And then so now we also I mean, we have precedent cases where teams have left the field of play and have refused to continue to play, and which is a clear offence against, the article that we were talking about earlier, and constitutes a forfeiture and a withdrawal from the match. And here again we have a different scenario, because Senegal, after about 10 minutes, they came back onto the field and they finished the game. So I think, we're looking at a different scenario. It may, it may lead to a different decision, a precedent that CAS sets that may have consequences for other situations. But I think for the time being, no, I don't think that it's going to be a precedent. I think CAS is going to stick to, the principles that apply to these types of situations. And I think even though Senegal, I give them a fair chance here, but I still think CAS that CAS won't overturn the decision.
Okay, we shall see. Patrick Roeder, the FIFA licensed football agent, tech, sports and media lawyer. Much appreciate your insights. At the moment, we say champions. Who is it? Senegal or Morocco? Believe it or not.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
All right, so I'll tell you what, welcome your thoughts, by the way, on that issue, and I'm sure you may want to just comment on that as well, right, in terms of the position of how you see not just the CAF issue, because I think that's a very interesting conversation, but also the goings on in the Middle East. Somebody making the point, I see, Ashraf, no more Middle East, it's West Asia. Remember that whole title of the Middle East not on. I wonder what you make of that, as well as the SANDF in the Western Cape as well. Right. With me is Mtombisi. We're going to pick up on the issue of the fuel story, because there's been many people who are actually now checking out and buying at different areas, and there's been a concern whether they're going to get their fuel besides the actual price increases as well. So with me is the SABC News reporter, and that's Mtombisi Mkhalipile. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Right, I understand that specifically in the Mpumalanga region, there's a panic buy. Tell me more about it.
That's true. As we speak now, there are long queues in different fuel filling stations. The motorists say that they want to make sure that they've got enough fuel. That didn't start just after the official announcement of the fuel increase, but it started in the morning. And some of the motorists say that they also heard that there will be shortage of fuel in the country, so they want to make sure that they have enough fuel. And some of those that we spoke to even have extra containers where they want to stockpile fuel. They say that they want to make sure that they've got enough fuel, especially because some of them will be traveling to different destinations, as we know that we will be having a long weekend, so they want to make sure that they do have fuel.
Do you get a sense, and based upon maybe your conversations with the garage owners and others as well, that in fact there is a fuel shortage? That means they could find, if that you don't go and fill up your tank, you're going to find yourself running out of fuel.
Well, most of them they didn't want to talk to us. But I can tell you that some of the fuel stations that we went to, the motorists were turned away because they didn't have fuel. So as we speak, some of the fuel stations in the province, especially in the lower part of Mpumalanga, they do not have fuel. So motorists, they were panicking because of that as well, to say that when they noticed that in some petrol stations there is no fuel. So they say that that's why they go to the fuel stations that have diesel and petrol. They want to make sure that they stockpile so that they have enough fuel.
Okay. Just the last thing, what has been the mood at these filling stations in terms of the people? Is there tension? Is there anger? Is there disgruntlement about the price increases and perhaps shortages? Or is it just a case of going with the flow?
Well, most of the motorists that we spoke to, they are concerned that they might run out of fuel. But we also spoke to business public transport operators, especially taxi operators. They say that they are concerned because some of the filling stations, they increased the diesel before even the announcement. and they say that the increase of fuel will hit hard their businesses, because at some point they will be forced to increase prices. And they are pinning their hopes now on government to come up with a better solution. And we also spoke to a major bus operator in the Lowveld part of Mpumalanga, which is Busco. They say that at this stage they do have enough fuel, but they are worried that if the fuel run out in the country, they might also have problems, especially because they are transporting people to far areas like Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, and also this weekend they'll be transporting people who are going to Moria. But they say at this stage they do have diesel. However, they are worried.
Okay.
And also they also commented on the increase, to say that the increase might also have a negative impact on them, which will subsequently force them to increase prices, which will affect their customers.
And how long can it be sustained? Understandable. Appreciate your time. There are big issues in Mpumalanga in terms of panic buying. But is the panic buying real panic, or is that the common sense thing to do? News headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced 900 billion rand has already been committed of the new 2 trillion rand investment target set for the next 5 years. The city of Tshwane has warned commuters of disruptions to bus services due to ongoing fuel supply challenges, and a human rights group in Haiti says at least 70 people are known to have been killed and 30 injured during a gang attack on a town at the weekend. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound has delays near Grasmere Toll Plaza, a crash on the N3 northbound at Marlborough Drive, and there's a crash on the R24 eastbound at Edenvale Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit and a stationary vehicle on the N3 southbound after Market Road ramp. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards the N2 highway exit, the N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, and High Level Road outbound slow moving towards Ocean View Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, to me, you want to talk about the Cape Storm.
The Stormers, they're aiming to make history in the European Rugby Champions Cup when they face Toulon in France this weekend. They hope to become the first South African team to reach the semi-finals. No local side has gone beyond the quarterfinals, with the Stormers, Sharks and Bulls all falling short in recent seasons. And coach John Dobson says that the team now has the depth to mount a serious challenge. In football, Maruma Gallants chairman Abraham Sello has slammed down claims that was made by David Mkhashwa, who wants to take back Morocco Swallows top flight status through the courts. Mkhashwa says that Sello did not fully pay the 40 million rand agreed in a deal made in May 2024, and he has asked the High Court to cancel the agreement. However, Sello denies this, and he says that payments are being made as agreed and believes the issue should be handled by the Premier Soccer League dispute body and not the courts. Mkhashwa also claims that the club was sold for less than its true value, and the case will now go to courts for full argument, and it may not be resolved before the end of this particular season. Elsewhere, former Tottenham Hotspur manager Mauricio Pochettino believes that the struggling club can still avoid relegation from the Premier League. However, he says that his main focus is on coaching the United States men's national soccer team at the upcoming FIFA World Cup, which kicks off on the 11th of June. And Pochettino has recently been linked with a return to Spurs, who are looking for a new permanent coach. This is after sacking Thomas Frank in February. And interim coach Igor Tudor left the club on Sunday, while former Brighton manager Roberto De Zerbi is reportedly close to becoming Spurs' next head coach. In basketball, Johannesburg Giants forward Joshua Ozabo says that the team must keep their heads up. This is despite back-to-back defeats in the Basketball Africa League's Kalahari Conference. Speaking after the loss to Nairobi City Thunder, Azoba admitted that it was a bad look for players to drop their body language, stressing the importance of staying positive with more games ahead. The 23-year-old acknowledged the pressure of performing in front of home fans, but described it as a blessing rather than a burden. Encouraged by coaches and family to trust his work, Ozabo believes that the Giants can bounce back when they face Rwanda's RSSB Tigers at Sunbet Arena on Wednesday evening. In cricket, India's cricket fans are calling for teenage prodigy Vaibhav Suryavanshi to be fast-tracked into the senior national team after his explosive 17-ball 50 in the IPL. The 15-year-old smashed 4 fours and 5 sixes to guide Rajasthan Royals past Chennai Super Kings, continuing a dazzling rise that began with the record 35-ball century last season. Now, spin legend Anil Kumble compared him to Sachin Tendulkar, who debuted for England at 16, while former batter Ambati described him as a cut above his peers. Royals captain Rian Parag says that the team is focused on shielding the youngsters from early fame, even as his talent leaves crowds in awe. And finally, Team South Africa is set to fly the Mzansi flag high at the IMMAF Africa Championships in Angola from the 13th to the 16th of April. 9 athletes have been confirmed, including siblings John James and Katie Carindus, who return after dominant performances last year. Katie clinched strawweight gold, while JJ, who's a 3-time World Championships competitor, aims to go one better before turning professional. 5 South African officials led by Charles van Donder will oversee proceedings to ensure athlete safety. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
And of course, the countdown, the real countdown is to tonight, the Bafana game against Panama. They win that one, they're buoyant. They lose that one, sure. They draw, one may say, what have we learned over 2 games? Think about it. Lots of implications in the build-up to the FIFA World Cup. That's now a couple of months away, isn't it?
Color Your Plate enters a new phase this Sunday evening at 7 as the winning contestants from the first 6 episodes now return as duos for the very first time, cooking side by side with their stirrings. Their challenge, to create a dish that combines and celebrates their heritage and to prove they can work together under pressure. Which duo will stand out and show they have what it takes to go all the way? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7, repeat Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. only on SABC2.
You could win a car. You could win a car. Everyone could win a car.
Spar Win a Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products like 2 kg Tastic Parboiled Rice for $29.99. Save 10 Rand. Or 1 kg Kellogg's Cornflakes for $69.99. Save 15 Rand. Price is valid from 23 March till 7 April. Shop, swipe, and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, there's yearly results from Master Drilling, and the expert and all of that is Makwe Masilela. Makwe?
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Yes, their revenue up 7.8% to a record high, and that is despite the global market and economic uncertainties. Ashraf, their new drilling and cutting technologies have matured and impacting the mining industry positively, but the profitability faced some pressure as profit as headline earnings per share increased by a mere 1.4%. Debt increased by 26% due to the renewal of their banking facilities. Dividend decision was deferred as the guys are watching the current global hostilities, and they have a very solid order book and record pipeline. Ashraf, Chinese manufacturing activity grew more than expected as strong overseas demand and steady capacity helped to support the production levels. Also, their non-manufacturing activity unexpectedly rebounded into growth territory, pointing to an improvement when it comes to local demand for services. The ongoing Middle East conflict remained squarely in the spotlight, with further mixed messaging on the state of the peace talks between the U.S. and Iran, and reports that Trump is willing to end the war even if the Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed, was very positive for stocks. U.S. Central Bank Chair added to the dialing back of our expectations when it comes to interest rate hikes, when he said they will wait and see the impact of the war when it comes to long-term inflation. Locally, our flagship investment conference started today as we are targeting 2 trillion rands in investment by 2028, and our government tried to lessen the petrol and diesel prices blow on consumers by temporarily reducing the general fuel levy by 3 rand per litre. And given the latest comments from Trump, the US dollar is not seen as a private safe haven asset for now. Coupled with firmer commodity prices, the rand is regaining previous losses. Oil prices remain elevated after Kuwait oil tanker near Dubai catches fire following a reported Iranian attack, but now we are down only 0.4% at $107 a barrel. Yellow metal edged higher today, but remained on track for deep losses when it comes to March, as rising inflation expectations battered non-yielding assets such as gold. And as we are talking, gold is up 2% at 4,605, platinum up 5% at 1,923. Global stocks are nice uply as Trump mulls Iran war of ramping without reopening the Strait of Hormuz. JC up 1.5% led by resources. Rand firmed 1% against the dollars at 17.2254 against the pound and 19.60 against the euro.
Got that. Thanks for that, Markwe. More from you tomorrow. Jimmy Moyaha comes up 6 to 7 with an hour of the markets.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, where are you listening to the show from today? I mean, send us a picture. Tweet it if you like. Send it via WhatsApp. Picture of you locked in with your dial to SAFM 0614 104 107. Right, so we spoke about this a few days ago with the CEO of Brand SA, right? Ahead of the investment conference that South Africa is hosting, the 6th one. It's a big deal. And the president, naturally, well, he spoke at the conference itself. So we'll pick out some key thoughts that we think you need to be hearing. One, he spoke about and made a comparison of South Africa's economy and the rest of the African continent.
From that boom. We are a young nation, just 32 years old. The dawn of democracy in 1994 secured our freedom from exclusion, freedom from oppression, but it also unleashed our potential. It set out an irreversible path towards progress and a shared prosperity. Today, South Africa is the largest and most industrialized, open, and diverse economy on the African continent. Our economy is dynamic, it's enterprising, and is finely calibrated for growth and power by innovation. We have an economy that has proven itself to be remarkably resilient. It weathered the transition from apartheid, better still, from colonialism to apartheid, to the global financial crises, the years of state capture that we went through, a debilitating energy crisis, and COVID-19 pandemic. Even amidst these strong headwinds, the South African economy has maintained core financial and institutional stability. This year's South Africa's investment conference takes place against a backdrop of growth as well as recovery. Investment conferences such as this are an opportunity for us to showcase the attractiveness of investment opportunities in our country to domestic and international investors.
So what about the role of Operation Vulindlela?
Now, this 6th South African Investment Conference stands at the crossroads of opportunity and ambition, ready to turn pledges into projects on the ground. The shift in our economic trajectory that we are witnessing now is the result of deliberate, sustained structural reform that we have embarked upon as a government. And to do this, we set up a facility, a structure that we call Operation Vulindlela, meaning to open the way in isiZulu, one of our 12 languages. And it is a joint initiative of the Presidency, the National Treasury, bringing together all the other key departments in our government, helping us to get rid of the silo mentality that often prevails in government. And this has enabled us to implement far-reaching economic reforms for rapid growth. Its mandate is simple: to reduce the cost and the risk of investing in South Africa, not through speeches like what I am doing now, but through measurable implementation. So if you like, you can just discard what I am saying now and focus on whether we are implementing what we say or not.
And there's more, of course, right? Then the president spoke about, well, effectively set the agenda for South Africa in terms of, making that investment circle much bigger.
We are embarking on the largest and most ambitious cycle of infrastructure investment in our country's history. Infrastructure, as I often say, is the flywheel that propels economic growth. It boosts productivity, it propels trade and reduces the cost of doing business. It creates immediate and meaningful employment opportunities at scale. With this unprecedented investment, we are kickstarting the cycle. Over the next 3 years, the state has budgeted for the investment of more than 1 trillion rand, or approximately $58 billion in modernizing and expanding public infrastructure across our country. This includes 950 billion rand in planned infrastructure investment. Spending as much as 375 billion has been allocated to state-owned enterprises to support, maintain, and upgrade, and also expand infrastructure facilities. In addition to this, our state-owned enterprises have allocated for major infrastructure projects for the medium term. The South African National Road Agency will be investing between 300 and 400 billion for upgrading and maintaining our national road infrastructure. Up to 250 billion is being invested in ports and logistics and modernization, which is driven by our state-owned enterprise Transnet. The Port of Durban, the busiest port on the continent, is being expanded to handle high container volumes and to improve efficiency with similar upgrades in Cape Town, Port of Ngqura, and Eastern Cape.
And then finally, here's a big question. What, between the country and investors, do we have a social contract around that? Here's the president.
development in Egypt, and they will also be driven by the Lobito corridor investment. Although we remain a significant continental player, accounting for between 15 and 20% of Africa's total FDI, our growth depends heavily on domestic investment. The opening position of the second drive of this investment process is 415 billion rand confirmed fixed investment and 479.8 billion of DFI being announced in this room today. So what all this amounts to, just in this one shot, we are going to hear investments that will be announced here as commitments, as real investments that will go on South African ground that will total 889.8 billion rand that are going to be announced today. Now, the mathematics that I was taught at school, in an apartheid education school, always taught me that you round up. You round up and you don't round down. And if a figure is closer to being rounded up, you round it up. So my rounding up then brings this to 900 billion rand. That will be announced today. That will be in 81 projects, 9 provinces, 22 source markets, and over 230,000 permanent jobs that will be created. Now that has an impact on our economy, it has an impact on our people. This is only the start of an era of new growth and dynamism for the South African economy. The accountability framework is unchanged from the first drive. Every investment announcement that will be made here will be vetted and signed and will represent a firm commitment by business leaders in this room. Every year we will report back on what has been promised and what has been delivered.
Right, that's the president. By the way, that's one thing. We'll get reaction from you. We'll also chat to Thebe Ikalafeng. You know, he's been inaugurated as the Chancellor of the Saul Plaatje University from Kimberley, and that's where he comes from. Looking forward to that chat just after 5. Do not miss that. I'll talk to you next.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa, to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, hang on to this, right? Innovation does not end with the close of the South African Innovation Week. The week marked the beginning of deeper collaboration, continued investment and sustained support for innovators throughout South Africa. So SA Innovation Week was not just about dialogue. It was about commitments, in fact, partnerships and actionable outcomes that will continue beyond the event. Brought to you by the Technology Innovation Agency, that's TIA, an entity of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's pick out some voice notes. Your thoughts. Here we are.
Hi, Ashraf. The N4 is blocked on both ways. It looks like some action there, but there's no people on the road. Even though it's blocked both ways, trucks stopped everywhere and the small cars are damaged. We don't know what is this. Probably it's an action against the petrol rise and so, but it's just not good. Doesn't look good at all.
Right, we covered that issue of Mpumalanga just now, but so N4 would be what? Pretoria, that sign? I mean, just be very clear which area we're talking about. And you may know, but anybody else listening, so if you're listening into that complaint, that concern from the caller, can you give us an update and tell us exactly what you've seen? Are there problems with regard to, blockages regarding to filling stations as per the N4 and beyond? If so, we need to hear from you. Another one, conference of talk shops and empty promises. The president appears to be delivering a SONA. Okay.
Hi, Ashraf. Those who argue that the referee's decision is final and therefore the cup should remain with Senegal in spite of the referee's failure to apply the rules are just playing ignorant or maybe misinformed. Because if you field an ineligible player, 3 points can be deducted 4, 6, 8 weeks after the game. So the referee's decision is not always final. There are circumstances that overrule the referee even after the whistle has been blown. So that argument falls flat, straight up. Tato from Centurion, thank you.
So, well, South Africa were part of that conversation, isn't it? Where after the event in a World Cup qualifier, things change. So, actually, you make a very interesting point. I take it.
Hello, Ashraf. Ashraf, in my humble opinion, the minute that Senegal walked off the field, they forfeited the game. So game over. So thereafter, any decision that the referee made or anybody else made is irrelevant. That's what the rules say. You forfeit the game as soon as you walk off the pitch. So unfortunately, I don't even think it should be going to another appeal. Referee or no referee, game had ended the minute they walked off the field, so there was nothing for the referee to decide on. Anyway, just my 2 cents. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Well, that means what you're saying is there were two wrongs, right? Forget the penalty decision. I mean, listen, that happens in every sport, every time. We know that. We argue about it all right through. So that's, by the way, the moment they decided to take their protest to the point of we will not play, you're saying that's wrong. And then the referee allowing them back on the pitch is also wrong. Essentially, that's why that appeal has gone Morocco's way, if I understand that correctly. Right. In fact, there's a lot more about that and the very interesting conversation I had about that Senegal issue earlier on today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Jabu from Middleburg. Yeah, Ashraf, I think the guy we were talking to in terms of about Senegal and Morocco, I think he's a bit biased. He has concluded in his mind that even if they appeal, the decision was a sound decision. And I'm happy that you asked the correct questions, the relevant questions, the decisions that are made on the field. Why are they not challengeable, even if the referee makes a wrong decision? Because if the referee made a wrong decision to allow the players to come back to the field of play and finish the game and go on extra time, and then Senegal goes on and win fairly, so why did they allow that to happen? So I think he's a bit biased.
So he's a bit biased is what you say, right? Listen, by the way, let's get to another hotbed region. Well, it really is very hot in terms of climate too.
Good afternoon. Yeah, you're going to see what's going to happen now. UAE is going to jump in. America, Israel and its allies will win. That is what's going to happen.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that comment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I just want to share my thoughts with regards to the joining of the South African Police Service and the South African National Defence Force. It is very much commendable. It is acceptable. It is for the well-being of our communities and our country overall, right? Ashraf, I notice there's a lot of flexibility there at Kachale's office. It's getting too comfortable and flexible in that position as acting police minister. I do wish that Comrade Senzo Mchunu goes back to that position as the Minister of Police, because it's thanks to him unlike other individuals, he looked into this dodgy bad kitty cat Matlala, right? And he noticed that this is a dodgy individual, so he cancelled the contract. Yes, the people will talk about the disbandment of the PKTT is a waste of money overall. But this is just my honest opinion. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Okay, you seem to have got it all sorted out. Thank you. The Minister of Police acting getting too comfortable. Really? Okay. If I told you I've got Tebe Kalafeng as my guest next, what would you be doing? Here's the news at 5 with Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Ramaphosa speaks on billions in investment and dozens killed in Haiti unrest. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced 900 billion rand has already been committed of the new 2 trillion rand investment target set for the next 5 years. The latest investment commitments are expected to come from banks, development finance bodies, state-owned enterprises and the private sector. Ramaphosa addressed delegates at the SA Investment Conference in Sandton, north of Johannesburg.
The opening position of the second drive of this investment process is 415 billion rand confirmed fixed investment and 479.8 billion of DFI being announced in this room today. So what all this amounts to, just in this one shot, we are going to hear investments that will be announced here as commitments, as real investments that will go on the South African ground that will total 889.8 billion rand.
City of Tshwane has warned commuters of disruptions to bus services due to ongoing fuel supply challenges. The Metro says all the city's bus service depots have run out of fuel, resulting in a reduced number of buses on the road and disruptions are scheduled. 65 out of 155 planned shifts were able to operate from Monday, with the city warning that services could be further affected if supplies are not restored in time. Tshwane Mayor Nasipa Moya.
The nation must consider doing the approach that we took in during COVID, where people must work from home. But internally, we are prioritizing the key service delivery departments. For instance, the electricity guys must not suffer. They mustn't be unable to go to households or to substations to fix what is broken. That goes for water, that goes for TMPD, Emergency Services Department, that goes with our fleet.
Meanwhile, the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources has announced an increase in the price of fuel with effect from midnight tonight. Both grades of petrol will go up by 3 rand 6 cents a litre, while diesel will shoot up by between 7 rand 37 and 7 rand 51 cents a litre. Illuminating Paraffin sees the highest increase on record of 11 rand 67 cents a litre. Civic organisation Progressive Forces of SA has demanded action against recent coronation of a Nigerian Igbo king in the Eastern Cape. The coronation sparked violent unrest, with vehicles torched, foreign-owned shops looted and a local man stabbed. The General Secretary of the Progressive Forces of SA is Lebogang Shabote.
An apology without any action is useless, it's null and void. We can apologize, but then after the apology, then what? It's very clear that there are tensions between Nigerians and South Africans. What is our government doing about that? Is our government listening to the grievances of the South African citizens? What is the Nigerian embassy doing about it? Because its citizens are in South Africa. There's a lot of lawlessness from their side as well.
A human rights group in Haiti says at least 70 people are known to have been killed in a gang attack on a town. The BBC's Mimi Swabi has more.
The assault by heavily armed gang members has left a trail of bodies and burned homes in Haiti's breadbasket Artibonite region. The rights group Défenseurs Plus have said some 6,000 people have been displaced by the violence, which occurred during a pre-Easter festival. Members of the Grand Grief gang burned houses and gunned down those fleeing. At least 8 people have reportedly been kidnapped. After a delayed police arrival, gang members began to retreat. Yet, a UN spokesperson has warned the death toll could be as high as 80.
Top story, President Ramaphosa has announced 900 billion rand has already been committed of the new 2 trillion rand investment target set for the next 5 years. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports this hour, Bafana set for Panama tonight. Proteas Women I-Series win in Wellington, and Stormers aim for European Rugby Champions Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound slow moving towards Geldenhuys interchange, the N12 R24 westbound slow moving on both routes towards Giluli's interchange, and Trichardt Road eastbound is where a crash is reported at Veldpost Street. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after the N2 ramp, a crash on the N3 southbound after Market Road, the left lanes closed, and the N2 northbound queuing through the construction area north of Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, on the N1, there's a crash north of Worcester near Sandhill, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and Van Riebeeck Road southbound slow moving at Stellenbosch Hotel Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So here's a question. Are you at a filling station right now? Or have you done your job? You've filled up, you got your petrol, full tank, nochal, not even a quarter or a half. You've done the whole thing. Is that where you are right now? Or are you heading to the filling station and you're praying that you will get petrol? I need to check with my wife. I told her, I said, Jamila, you need to sort it out. I'm hoping she's done it. I'm just wondering whether you've done the same thing. Let's just recap. It's the big story of the day, really. The petrol price went up. We spoke about it last week. From the Fuel Retailers Organization, the plan was, yes, it'll go up from 6 Rand to 11 Rand. So it's only 3 Rands and 6 cents. That's like a massive discount. And the only reason for that is, in fact, it should be above 6 Rands. But there's a fuel levy of 3 Rands that actually has been, that we pay to government. And that levy has been reduced or discarded for this month only because of the massive price hike. So for this month only, no fuel levy. Next month, as the Minister of Finance has said, I don't know, we shall see. To confirm, what is that fuel levy? It's the fuel levy is a government tax charged per litre of fuel, right? When you fill up your car, a portion of what you pay goes to government, not to the petrol station. It's got nothing to do with petrol. It's just a form of taxation. It's not even a form of taxation. It's a taxation. And the way they do it, it's like you can do it via PAYE, via, company tax, via, when you get excise on goods, when you import. I mean, those are all taxes. VAT is a tax. This fuel levy is not actually for fuel. It's a tax. But we've been given a 1 month discount because of the price. Are you happy with that? We should be chatting to Tebe Kalafeng in a moment or two. But let's talk about fuel shortages. And you can comment wherever you are in the country and explain is there a rush to the filling stations? How do you feel about it? Are you getting your petrol? We need to know.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Sanil in Durban. Yeah. With this fuel increase, we can't even move. The traffic on the road for cars trying to get to the petrol station to fill up. Now we've got new problems. I've been to 3 petrol stations. There's no fuel. The question is there no fuel because there's no fuel, or there's no fuel there's no fuel because they're gonna charge us a new price? It's very scary. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's very scary. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I need somebody to assist me here, man. Our constitution, South African constitution, gives individuals and communities and the citizens in general the right to protest. It is a fundamental right. But I don't know whether does it also address the question of responsibility. Who's responsible for anything that goes wrong when that protest takes place? who must shoulder that responsibility? Can somebody maybe who knows better in our constitution just to enlighten me them? I mean, the distraction that happens because of people protesting, it's actually giving our country a bad name and image. I thank you.
Okay, and there's more.
You see, Ashraf, for a team to walk out of the ground and come back again, it's unusual phenomenon. It doesn't happen so frequently. So then, if you referees, like, they're human beings as well, maybe he has never also experienced that. So maybe he would have remembered that, okay, if it goes like this, the Article 8 and 3 are going to catch up with me. Maybe he wouldn't have allowed that to take place. So it's unfortunate. It's human error. It's human error. So Morocco will have to take that competition. Thanks to Elaine Kuma.
Thanks for that, Willie. Willie, as always, has got strong views on all things. Tebe Kalafeng has got strong views. We'll talk to him next.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right. Tebe Kalafeng.
Good afternoon.
Chancellor Tebe Kalafeng.
Well, so many titles, but the most important title is African.
And you don't stop reminding us of that, isn't it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one title that I'll take to my grave.
Yeah. Well, listen. I mean, I first encountered you when you were. I don't know whether you were still with Nike at that stage or not, but I remember you got this award, a GQ Business Smart Business Dresser of the Year, something along that line. That's a long time ago.
I still dress well, don't I?
I do, but you do, but you've changed in terms of your style, which I'll come to just now. But at that stage, if someone told me that this guy would be a chancellor of a university, it would be the furthest thing from my mind, not because you wouldn't deserve it. I just didn't see you in that vein. But yet you are. So let's talk about that. You know, how did the invite come? Why did you say yes?
A very good question. So you are right. That's the furthest thing in my mind. It also was the furthest thing in my mind last year when I was asked to put up my hand to be nominated along other people for the chancellorship to replace Justice Majid, who had finished his 10-year tenure. So that's how it works. It works is that a chancellor gets elected for 5 and the possible 5-year terms. People get nominated, you put up your hand, goes to a secret vote, a debate and a secret vote, and one gets elected. And that's how I ended up there. I put up my hand. I should say reluctantly, because it wasn't the thing I anticipated, because I was already on the council. I resigned from the council to put up my hand because one of my council members who nominated me and has known me for 50 years, when they read out the job description of the chancellor, he looked at me and he said, "That's who they just described." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "That very person they've described there, you are that person." And he convinced me that I'm that person. Because, we don't see ourselves the same way that other people see us. But he's known me for 50 years. He knew me as a head boy. He knew me throughout the years. And he is a deputy chairperson of the council. So he had a bit of an inkling on what he sees and what the university required.
Well, I mean, one thing is what he sees or they see. The other is you actually, putting your hand up, which you did, and then actually accepting the position. Right? Why did you do so? What's in it for you?
Well, I accepted it because it was an opportunity to give back to home in another form. I was already on the council, so I was already in a way giving back, but it was perhaps in the background, if you will, because when you have a council, not necessarily everybody knows that you do that. But at the chancellor level, you are at the absolute highest profile. You are the example, the reference point to the university that everybody looks to when they point to university. And coming from Kimberley, it perhaps give an example to a lot of the kids who look at me and they say, he's one of us, He came from our school, so it's sort of I guess in a way it's an inspirational reference point for them.
So I mean, this is a classic hometown boy who's travelled the world, rooted in Africa, but with an expansive mind. But still, in this case, you're saying I need to serve effectively Kimberley, right?
Indeed, and it's not just a Kimberley school. Remember, Soplaki is located in Kimberley, but it is not a Kimberley university. It's one of only two universities, along with Mpumalanga, which were established after apartheid ended in 1994, and it is a national university, one of the 26 national universities. So, but yes, of course, the fact that it's based in Kimberley is an interesting and beautiful story, and the fact that, and you probably have an inkling of how my investiture went, because my investiture really went to exactly what we're talking about one of their own. Because my investiture started in a township. We went to the township to my grandmother's house. I went to the graves. We slaughtered. We went to my high school, met my 93-year-old principal, and kids. We invited all the high schools in Kimberley to be part of the investiture, so that they themselves see themselves in the university, but they also see themselves on that stage in the future.
I'm sort of making notes about what I can do to the local community that I came from. It doesn't exist any longer because we got kicked out. I'm talking about the Fitas community in Johannesburg before we all got thrown out. But maybe there's a lesson in that, right? In terms of your role, I mean, the Chancellor effectively is a non-executive chairperson, of a university. How did you see the role playing out?
Well, I don't know. A lot of people said to me, they say...
Did you ask Judy Dlamini about it? I know she spoke at your inauguration. What did she say?
Including the people who nominated me, they said, and they wrote about it, that this is going to be a very different type of chancellery, because while it is titular or ceremonial, I'm probably not that guy. I'm probably the guy who rolls up his sleeves and gets things done. So of course, I will not be operational in the university, but I will be very operational in ensuring that the vision to establish Soplaki as a center of excellence for mining, the vision to ensure that the values of Solomon Tsegisho Plachi, who will be turning 150 years this year, his values and the ethos are institutionalized at Soplaki, and the idea that this should be an African university, a global African university, those three anchors, and the fourth one rather, which is make sure that this university is community centered. That will come through. So that I will drive operationally or influentially. I'll influence that very, very strongly because I believe in all that.
I mean, I would think, and they would know this, right, that with your vast network in Africa and globally, that they would tap on that. Absolutely, they should. I wonder, with hindsight, who would have got the better end of the deal? You with them, or they with you?
So I think we both got the better end of the deal. I think we got a better end of the deal because in my mind, in my imagination, that I expected to be among a chancellery that includes Dr. Precious Motsepe, Thabo Mbeki, Dr. Phumzile Ngcuka, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, and Lady Pandor. I mean, that is, and the Governor Lesisha Khayago, that is the league that I'm in now with. So I would never have imagined that. So in a way, it is also an elevation to me. So I cannot underestimate that in a way as well. It puts me in a very different league. And of course for them as well, the fact that I'm the guy that has been to every country in the continent, is probably widely and diversely connected, whether it's arts in education and everything else in branding. That of course that's what I bring as well. So I think it's a mutual benefit. So I don't want to say either one of us has done better than the other. We both have done well.
And if you and I have a chat, say in 5 years from now, and we talk about how your imprint or your footprint on the Soplaki University would impact the varsity, what would you like to see it become at that time?
Well, this university is the only university which was called for by the community. The community marched for it. They asked for it. They said this university we want a university in the Northern Cape in Kimberley. In 5 years, they will affirm that this university truly, it reflects us. not just in the management, not just in the student, but it reflects us in terms of the ambition. This university, remember, it contributes 34% to the economy of Kimberley. So in 5 years, certainly they will say it's very community-centered. They will see a shift in Afrocentricity of the university. They will see a shift in terms of its national Pan-African positioning, because otherwise, why am I there for?
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to use this opportunity just to also just track your journey from where it all started in terms of, traveling, studying in the USA and how all that changed for you, because I think I want to inspire people to emulate this champion that you clearly are. So we'll do that right after this.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, I hope you're enjoying all of this. Tebe, let's go back. You did say head boy at your school. I heard that part. But, fast forward quickly to the significant journeys for you. From there, you somehow got to the USA. And then, of course, came back playing a key role at Nike. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, as I always repeat, that my journey is anchored in Kimberley in South Africa. I went to Wits University, dropped out of Wits, dropped into the US. I got my degrees there. My first 2 degrees I got there. I started my career at Colgate in New York, came down to South Africa, finished my corporate career at Nike, as you know. Then I founded Brand Leadership and then Brand Africa. And Brand Africa was really the turning point, if you will, philosophically for me, because I now became more intentional about driving the African narrative and leading, if you will, a brand-led African renaissance. And of course, my journey to every single country in the continent. So both the intersection of what I do for Brand Africa and what I do for traveling in the continent, both of those began to shape how I see myself and certainly how I want to lead the rest of my life. So in a nutshell, you would say that is that is a sort of my journey in 2 seconds. But it has always been a journey that it doesn't reference any others. It's always been a journey where I've always played in my own lane. I've never benchmarked myself against anybody else, never tried to emulate anybody else. I've always tried to take the road less traveled, and I've stayed true to myself and throughout. And that's why if you look across the country and the continent, I've always traveled my own journey in my own way, and to me it's a good lesson for everybody else, because all of us are born for a reason, and all of us have got a purpose on earth. And once we find that purpose and we match it with our passion, or our passion which leads us to our purpose, it becomes a very, very intentional journey and meaningful journey.
Interesting. I mean, I had a chat with Pepe Murray the other day, and you would know him. And he spoke about, I talk about, linking personal purpose to national purpose. He spoke about linking personal purpose to your business or your institution. And too often that does not happen, meaning that the personal purpose of the leader must then translate into how the institution works and vice versa. Well, why do you think so many people in South Africa, even now, still don't grasp the significance of just finding purpose? It's like as important as finding petrol today on the day when the petrol price goes up and you may be short of it.
Well, I mean, there's 3 perhaps important P's in anybody's life. First, there's the profit. I need to earn a living. So I need to find a profit. I need to earn a living. So while I'm trying to pursue a passion, I must still earn a living. And once you move up the if you will, Maslow's hierarchy, moving up, achieving that, getting into a position where perhaps the profit is important, but it is not as urgent or terribly doesn't necessarily drive your decisions. Then you have to find a way that you say, but what matters to me? What are my purpose? What's the things that I get excited about, which I would do even if I wasn't getting paid, if you will, which is the purpose, the profit part. And then as you do that, then you start asking yourself, but what am I living for? And then that's where the purpose engages. So you ask the question, why is it that it's difficult for most people to go there? It's a journey, and it doesn't happen at the same time for anyone or all of us. So for some people, they find their way and their reason for existing much earlier in life, and many other people towards the end of their lives. Doesn't matter where you find the entry point. What matters is you should always be on a journey towards finding that which matter and that which you want to be remembered for.
I mean, now you've got this big academic role as Chancellor of the Slot-Pluke University, but I suppose that, this would certainly now be seen as a significant moment in your life, right? But are there, 3 other significant moments? It could be an actual moment or a conversation in your life that you'd like to share with us.
Well, if I look at my journey, throughout life, I think going to the US was significant. Because it removed me from home, and it moved me from a place where perhaps I could run my life based on what other people think. So that is significant. I think my time at Nike was significant. It was significant because it put me in a really driving seat in terms of understanding how to build a great brands. But I think what really changed what changed and significant for me are the two parallel journeys. The journey for Brand Africa, where I started focusing on asking myself the question, how can we build great made in Africa brands? Because it is unfathomable that 80% of the brands that Africans admire are not made in Africa. And then my travel throughout the continent, because what that did, it gave me a good understanding of the continent and enabled me to be able to understand what binds us together as Africans and what are the opportunities and the challenges in the continent. Because the two of those combined enabled me to ask myself the question, so how can I play an active role in trying to direct and to change that or to contribute towards that? Because I'm just holding a baton. I'm just one person. So in all of us, as we move around, we're given a baton in life and we pass it on to the next person. The question is, when you get given that baton, what do you do with it?
So what do you do with the baton that's been given to you?
Well, certainly what I've done with it, I have put in all my energies into it. Having spent over $1 million, over maybe $20 million over the last 15 years into Brand Africa without any ROI, personal ROI into it, because I believed in the idea, I believe in the opportunities, I believe in the need for us as Africans to drive our own agenda, to shape our own narrative, although through a brand-led lens, because I believe that what brands do is they create jobs. The jobs create a tax base. The tax base enable us to drive our own development agenda. I think the time, what I did with my baton, I tried to show those who see me and those who bump into me the beauty in our continent. And traveling throughout the continent showed, at least was a lens to see the continent through one of their own. Because, a lot of the times when we look at the continent, everything that we hear about the continent, about Africa, has always been by the other. It has never been through us. So I think that's what I've done with my baton. And now in this final journey, well, it's not final journey, I don't know what way it is on this current journey. In this current journey with Slot-Pluke, it's not an opportunity at if you will, an academic level to say, how do we inspire the next generation from an education lens? So education, brands, and travel have always been the 3 things that have been a part of my journey.
Yeah. In the minute or so we have remaining, what are your pronouncements then on the state of South Africa? And, ordinarily I would ask you from a brand perspective, but now it's like a brand perspective, but also from a chancellor perspective, right? Clearly you see things in our country that you love, you admire, but there are also things that you don't. What are they?
Yeah, well, from an education lens, only 6% of the country has got a post high school education. So, and I'm not saying people should be going to education. But the question should be asking, if we are going to change this country, we're going to change this continent, this country particularly, surely we need to do more and better to get more people educated. Of course, getting them educated means that it should also be the quality of education, because if you look at where we are ranking for math and science, South Africa ranks last, according to the World Economic Forum and many other places. So it means that we are now the people so what we need to do as a country is then to ask ourselves the question, how are we going to solve the problems of the world if we don't have those critical skills, mathematics and science? Because it means that we can, the best that we can be are just lawyers and teachers, not saying anything less about them. But it be lawyers, teachers, then maybe in the social sciences. But we need scientists if we're going to solve bigger problems of the country, in this country. So from a country perspective, from an education lens, to me, that is the challenge. Of course, the bigger challenges of the country are how we're going to deal with the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and joblessness. That should worry all of us.
And maybe we'll talk about actual solutions sometime down the line. Well, your time is up. It's not the final thing, as you've said, so it's not the final countdown as yet, but I think, Tebe, as you made the point...
It's a current thing.
As you made the point with naming all the people you made who are now fellow chancellors like yourself, well, you're very much in the Champions League of chancellors, so well done to you. And I think this conversation, very intentional talking to you on your journey, is really meant to inspire people in South Africa, around the country, around the continent, listening in and say, hey man, if Tebe can do it and he can show me how, why cannot I emulate him? So much appreciate your time here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Every one of us can be anything that we want in the world. The key is to, wherever you see yourself into the future, and don't measure your future by your current circumstances.
And someone's going to say, I want to be like Tebe Kalafeng. I'm sure they're doing that. Thanks for your time. Enjoy Kenya. I think that's where you are right now, and see you soon back in South Africa. But South Africa, Kenya, it's always Africa with Tebe. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg.
In the headlines, the lifespan of Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns around national security has once again been extended. City of Tshwane has been forced to stop bus operations due to a fuel shortage, and President Ramaphosa's announced 900 billion rand has already been committed as part of a new investment target. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, there's rain across parts of the Midrand and surround areas, so please reduce your speeds and drive with absolute care in the affected areas. The M1 northbound in Braamfontein has a crash near Empire Road and Paul Kruger Street northbound in Pretoria, a crash before Francina Street. In KZN, the M4 northbound is where mudslide is reported near Broadway Durban North exit, the left lane's closed. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and Ananda Road westbound slow moving towards the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N2 inbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the N1 inbound slow moving on the elevated freeway, and Main Road is slow moving through Greenpoint. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, to me, eye on Cape Town, but not the Table Mountain. It's about the Panama Canal and Bafana. To me, do I have you there? No. We're going to have to connect with...
Absolutely, I'm still here.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, Panama.
Well, Hugo Bruce says only a few spots are still open in the Bafana squad as he finalizes his team for the FIFA World Cup 2026. South Africa face Panama national football team tonight at 7:30 in what is expected to be their last home match before the tournament. Then they will open their campaign against Mexico in the World Cup. That's on the 11th of June in Mexico City. And Bruce says that he is close to naming his final squad as the team aims to become the first South African side to reach the knockout stages of the World Cup. So if you're going to go to the stadium today, there are free My City shuttle services. Prasa trains are also operational from all routes in the country to elevate the traffic. Remember, it's a sold-out affair. 55,000 fans expected to attend this particular match, and we're looking forward to it. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs have launched their own women's team. The Kaizer Chiefs Chiefs Ladies, which will compete in the Gauteng Sasol League. And Chiefs bought the Springs Home Sweepers, which was founded by former Banyana coach Joseph Mkonza. And the team will be coached by Unati Mabena and assisted by Justice Kuno, and has a squad of 24 players, including former midfielder Mamelo Makabane, along with junior internationals Zanele Kunyamane and Katleho Mohale. In rugby, the Stormers are aiming to make history in the European Rugby Champions Cup when they face Toulon in France this weekend. They hope to become the first South African team to reach the semi-finals. No local side has gone beyond the quarterfinals, with the Stormers, Sharks and Bulls all falling short in recent seasons. And coach John Dobson says the team now has the depth to mount a serious challenge. Meanwhile, South Africa's Blitzboks head to Hong Kong Sevens with injury concerns over several key players, despite already securing the 2025-26 Seven Series title. Rising star Gino Cupido has been ruled out with an ankle injury, and Christy Grobler and Devald Koeman are also sidelined. And coach Philip Sneeman hopes that Grobler may return in May, but Koeman is likely to feature again this season. Now, the Blitzboks, who are the defending world champions after last year's triumph in Los Angeles, will begin their campaign in Hong Kong, and that is from the 17th to the 19th of April, and they're aiming to break their duck at the iconic venue. Well, that's it. It is a wrap from my side. A big, I'm wishing Bafana well for today. I heard you earlier on, Ashraf, you were saying 1-0 is a small result. So what are you looking for tonight?
I'm looking for something as wide as the Panama Canal, 3-0.
Okay. Let's see if they can.
I'm not predicting that's a score. I said that's what I'm looking for. Okay?
Yeah. We'll see if they'll be able to do that. With that said,
Thank you.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
For Olwethu Nxumalo of Ozide Rentals and Custom Dressmaking, every stitch is a story. What's your Telkom business chapter?
What made Telkom business stand out from all the rest was how fast everything was.
And with voice calling and fiber from Telkom Business, she stitches together inquiries and sources fabric online without dropping a thread.
Get unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month and Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Right, let's get to the markets, as always, hosted by Jimmy Muyaha. But before we do that, this is so linked to the markets in many ways. Innovation does not end with the close of the South African Innovation Week. The week marked the beginning of deeper collaboration, continued investment and sustained support for innovators throughout South Africa. SA Innovation Week was not just about dialogue, it was about commitments, partnerships and actionable outcomes that will continue beyond the event. Brought to you by the Technology Innovation Agency, which is TIA, an entity of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy, of course, you've got your eye on the other big event, the South African Investment Conference, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I certainly do. And we can see that there have been almost 100 billion rands in investment commitments made at this year's conference. We're going to be digging into that in a bit more detail and trying to unpack what these commitments look like and what they could potentially mean for the South African economy. We've also got a conversation with the Chief Commissioner at ITAC, the International Trade and Administration Commission, on the renewable energy tariffs that have been gazetted and reworked. That announcement coming through yesterday. We're going to take a look at that and see what it is that was presented and decided on in Parliament. Then we have a conversation with a retired portfolio manager at FNB, Wayne McCurry, reflecting on the career that is the career of one Nathan Kirsch. Of course, you heard me yesterday on our show mention that Natty Kirsch sold out Jetro Holdings in the United States for a little over $29 billion or 500 billion rands. We're going to be reflecting on that transaction and indeed the professional journey that was walked by Mr. Kirsch and trying to see if we can learn some important lessons around how to build businesses of that size. And we also have a conversation with the team at Luxi taking a look at the increasing electricity prices. Yes, petrol prices are not the only thing going up at midnight. Electricity prices, as gazetted by NERSA, will be increasing effective tomorrow as well. We're going to take a look at that and the implications thereof. And then, because it's Tuesday, we're going to wrap things up with a property conversation. We're going to be unpacking what to do if your home loan application gets rejected and you are still looking to purchase a home. So we've got that coming up on the show a little later on. Before we get to those conversations, a sense of what's been happening on the markets front. It has by and large been a better day, if we're being honest. Better start to the week in general, but a better Tuesday as well, with equity markets largely in the green. Currencies are stronger, the rand gaining ground against the US dollar and other major currencies. It's at 17 rand 6 cents at the moment against the US dollar, around 22.52 against the British pound, 19 rand 65 against the euro, and about 11 rand 70 against the Australian dollar. A Bitcoin is still below 67,000 ever so slightly. I see it's just ticked up to above 67,000, so it's around the $67,000 mark. In rand terms, with that slightly firmer rand, 1.14 million rand, so about 20,000 rand cheaper than where it was around this time yesterday. Commodity prices also having a better day. Gold price back above $4,600 a fine ounce, or about 2.53 million rand per kilogram in rand terms. The platinum pricing 1,935. Palladium still below 1,400. Below 1,500, but above 1,400, showing signs of improvement. The Brent crude price around the $106 a barrel level. That price is quite volatile at the moment and still struggling to get below the $100 a barrel level, and that is largely due to the fact that the tensions, of course, in the Middle East have not yet simmered down to where markets can be confident. If we look at equity markets, though, I did say they were having a better day. The Nasdaq's up 1.8% at the moment. The S&P up 1.4%. Asian markets were the only markets that really traded in mixed territory, with the Nikkei closing down 1.5%. European markets, the DAX and the CAC 40, almost identical gains, 0.2% to the green there. The FTSE in London, 0.5% to the green. Resource stocks locally, almost 2.8% up. Industrials, 0.9% up. And financials up 0.95%. All share, 1.47%. And the top 40, 1.5% to the green. We're going to be unpacking these market movements a little later on. I'm joined by PSG Financial Services Nelis Brunk to take a look at market movements and see what we make of the volatility that's currently in the markets. But of course, that conversation just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Looking forward to that. So much more to talk about here with your show, 6 to 7, and then followed by sports, 7 to 8, and then a whole recap of some of the biggest current affairs issues in the evening coming up after that, all the way up to midnight. Hey, we got you covered here on SAFM.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Tim saying, Ashraf, well done. Interview with Tebe, the Kalafeng, inspirational, absolutely. Of course, you can gather we know each other pretty well, but he's got a story to tell that is really inspiring. Absolute champion at what he does. There's naturally a big concern about the fuel stories, and if you have your eyes on the ground and you're there, then we need to know about it.
Afternoon, Ashraf. I also resonate with Sandy and who's just come on now. I'm also in Durban driving to PNB. I regret not filling up this morning. I'm on a lamp, orange lamp for now. Drive daily between Durban and Pietermaritzburg, and it's just jam-packed in every petrol station that I've come across, and the one where I started, that's where I normally fill up in the afternoons. Seems there's no fuel, and I ask the same question as Sandile is asking.
There we are, points made. Same support of Sandile's point of view.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you and to your SFM listeners. Makalela Lomfet. You know, this 2026 year, it's a year of surprises, full of unbelievable things we are experiencing in our lifetimes. If you look the war, look at the results of AFCON, look where we are now, the Levy, ton. Crazy, bro. Have a great one, great show, my man.
You're very kind. Thanks for tuning in. Really, your support does matter.
Namibia has removed all the tariffs from their fuel, so why can't South Africa do the same and give us a break? We've been paying increased amounts for petrol and diesel and paraffin for how long? It's going up and up and up and up.
Well, maybe because we can't afford it. I'm just saying. Well, in fact, they've given us a 1 month reprieve. Can they sustain that? Seriously? I'd love to think so, but I doubt it very much.
Hi, Ashraf. The man is showing signs of being desperate. And now, the reality is that he's facing a formidable enemy, which is Iran. Victory to Iran. That's Zelo from KZN.
I think it's just about Iran. I think most people at the moment are very concerned about petrol prices being increased. And, for those who are critical of South Africa's government, as I told you the other day, or even today, look at the cause. If the Iranians, let me get it right. Israel, USA did not attack Iran right now, we would not be having this conversation at all.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Yes, we are going to the match. But I don't have the Bafana skipper. I'll have to buy one maybe next month. But I'll wear my Rapid t-shirt. But yeah, we're going. I hope the traffic is not going to be too bad. Yeah, but we're going.
But even the traffic is too bad, so what? What it means is more people are interested in what you're interested in. Like, can you imagine going to an empty stadium? I always say if I go to a restaurant and the restaurant's empty, in fact, I'll probably do it today because it's my wife's birthday. But have you ever walked into an empty restaurant? I'm so excited. The restaurant's empty. Wow, great. A bunch in the air to say this is all to myself. I don't think it works. Unless I'm one-man show and I'm hungry, I don't go into empty restaurants. Do you do the same? I'd love to know what you do. All right, more to come. In fact, you can call in live. We'll take your calls live. Pick up on any issues you want to get off your chest. Any lessons learned from that whole story yesterday of the Nigerian king. It seemed to have simmered down a bit, isn't it? But what else? Now the army moving into the Western Cape, Cape Flats, and other parts, even in Gauteng too. Your thoughts on that? Will they be successful at what they do? Because clearly there's a sense of helplessness. It's not working, the ordinary SAPS one. I mean, the other one that's really bizarre from a global point, Israel passing a new death penalty law where Palestinians who are imprisoned can now be killed. So just for Palestinians, a death penalty law for Palestinians. If you know much about that, well, add your thoughts on that. Now, to call in live, 086 000 2032. WhatsApp is 0614 104 107. I need to get to your calls. And also, I'm sure you have an opinion on Thebe Kalafeng now being inducted as the Vice-Chancellor of... No, not Vice-Chancellor. He'll fight with me. As the Chancellor, so the chairperson, effectively, of the University of Sol Plaatje University, from whence he comes from. He's from the Kimberley region. That's where he is. Peter in the Northern Cape. We spoke about CAF earlier. You want to bring it up again? Go for it, Peter.
Hello, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed, man. What's your point?
Good, man, good. Listen, the CAF decision is a very controversial decision in my view. Now, I heard a caller say to you earlier that the reason the referee's decision is final and all of that. Yes, he's absolutely correct. And then there was another caller who said, but two wrongs don't make a right and what. You see, the real issue that we must discuss, there were senior CAF officials there. Although Senegal refused to continue with the game, but it was as a direct result of behavior inflicted upon them. Thereafter, they were taken out of the change house. The referee allowed them to play. Now, it's officials of CAF, isn't it? So why are they punished for behavior of officials of CAF? And how did the disciplinary board get to a sentence a sanction that says, no, now the game has been won by the opposition with 3-0. when it was Senegal's score, it could have, if they had said 1-0, because in technicalities, that's the score that you use.
But I mean, 1-0, 3-0, does it make a difference? I mean, the bottom line is...
No, it doesn't, but it creates a flaw, a serious flaw, because they did not score a single goal. You just hand over the points. You don't have to mention a score, isn't it? That's what happens when somebody forfeits their points.
No, in fact, when you forfeit points and there's a walkover, there's a score. And
it's a walkover.
Whether it's 1-0 or 3-0, they do have
it. It would be the 3 points that you get. No, it wouldn't be a score. It's the points that you get.
All right, but I mean, okay, so bottom line, you think, what should CAF have done then?
CAF should have avoided a situation where controversy takes place. CAF officials, because we have VAR and all of that there. There's a reason why officials are present at a game. The reason being that they must ensure that the referee, where he falters, they intervene and correct the behavior.
Not during a game. I don't think they can do it during a game. Not at all.
No, they can. They can.
During a game?
Pardon?
Can you see a president coming down the pitch during a game and say,
no, the
referee,
president wasn't there alone. There's a fourth official as well. And he would have consulted with the leadership. And they would say, no, but these guys forfeited the game. Why did they walk off the field?
Okay, got that. But I think referees and match officials are very different to other executive members. Okay, Peter, you've made your point. We'll get to further comments as well. I did mention, Themba Dlamini, our producer, my producer, who's been producing this show for 2 years, but in fact has been producing some show or the other on SAFM. Morning, lunch, early morning, 9 to 12, this show, and many others. He has decided he's going to move on. So that will mark a break after 19 years of connection to SAFM. Huge loss, personally, from myself and Keith, certainly as colleagues, but also as friends, as chommies. Like, how do you say goodbye? But there are people who want to say goodbye.
Team and the loyal listeners across the globe, it's unfortunate that Mr. Themba is finally saying a goodbye to us. The show wouldn't have been completed without the hard-working Themba and the team who are always behind the show. I, Bramoro, on behalf of the loyal listeners of SAFM, wish Mr. Themba the very best of success in his new endeavor. And fortunately for me, today happens to be my birthday and the birthday of Ashraf Garda's wife. May the Almighty Allah bless us all. It's Bramoro in Bloemfontein.
Hi, Bramoro. You see, in that moment when they say, what makes South Africa so special? I mean, you've just done it. So absolutely, one lovely call. Really enjoyed that. And Themba is listening. He doesn't want to talk. Alex, I would have interviewed him, but he doesn't want to say a word, but he's listening.
Ashraf, how can one become involved in the Brand SA, the campaign in which Mr. Kalafing is involved? If he can share his contact number so that I'm interested in that, because I'm dealing with the youth, the better part of my day. So if I can get contacts, then I can get to know what is this that is expected to can involve the youth for the future generation, so that they can be one part of Brand SA. Thank you.
Well, look, the simplest way, just Google Brand SA. You'll find them. Then there's contact details. It'll explain exactly what's required for you to participate in any of their projects. That's what you need to do. Just Google, because Themba is not involved in Brand SA on an executive level. Just Google Brand SA. They'll give you all the details. That's what you need to do. Max in Valcom, you want to talk about the Israeli law situation I just touched on now? Yeah. Hi, Max. Max, you're live. You're live on the National Pulse.
Ashraf,
yeah,
how are you?
I'm good. You're live. Go for it, Max.
Yeah, no, farewell to Themba. Yeah, Ashraf, this thing of the Israeli system of having two laws, that puts a stamp on what people have been everybody else, that Israel is an apartheid state. You have one law for one and one law for the other one. So I think anybody who had any doubt at some point, now they know that Israel indeed is an apartheid state, and they should just accept that fact and move forward into destroying it. Because there's no way that we can allow a country which says it's a unitary state, but having two laws for two different population groups. It's not acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Max, essentially Max from Welkom saying that's not welcome. Point made, emphatically so.
Ashraf, to answer the question about the protest, the people who are responsible for anything that transpires during the protest are the organizers. Full stop. The organizers take the full responsibility, whether there's distraction or what, the organizers. But Ashraf, I want us to revisit something. I hear people saying South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. Even the foreigners are abusing that. But they don't live here, they arrived here. That's the difference. Thank you. Udingongi Bonafide, son of Indwe in the Eastern Cape.
So you make a difference between people who arrived here and people who are born here, but both have one thing in common. They live here. Right, here's another.
You know, for some time, South African scholars and activists and opinion makers, analysts have been talking about a ticking time bomb. Now we are seeing that the country is on autopilot mode. The political situation is anarchic, you understand? So now we are seeing the people leading themselves, and which will inevitably result into chaos. Wow, I wonder what is being said at Luthuli House, Naseunion buildings. Anonymous in Bombela.
Interesting. After that autopilot story you talk about, you still have a situation of big investments flowing into South Africa. Today, the investment summit on the go. So, hey, South Africa's not perfect. There's a mess on many things, but there's also lots of things we're getting right. Here's another comment. Hi, Ashraf. I was listening to the president throw around billions in investment at this year's conference. A report back on the last few years promises would be good. My guess is the average citizen would likely question any growth that all of these billions produced. I would also be suspicious about the 450 billion into the SOE funding trough. Okay, I think at some stage on the show this year, we need to go back to say promises made, what was kept. What about petrol prices?
Ashraf, waiting now about 20 minutes to line at the petrol station. No thanks to Israel in particular, and whatever hold they have on Donald Trump for putting us through this cost, this inconvenience, this negative impact on our GDP, on our disposable income, and on the rising food prices, etc. going to come. They wiped out Gaza. It wasn't enough for them, Netanyahu and Trump. And now the whole world has to suffer because of this racist ideologies and mentality.
Okay, got that. So you say that the American-Israel attack on Iran, for whatever reasons they have, is as a result of that, we've got the petrol price increase. Points taken from you. Right, let's get to Cynthia from Highlands North. Hi, Cynthia. Cynthia, hi. Cynthia, not... Okay, I'm not too sure where... Okay, Cynthia, in fact, Cynthia saying Max is incorrect about the two laws. Also, what was Max insinuating when he said we must destroy it? What is it? There we are. And then saying Ashraf should not have allowed that. I'm not too sure what that means. Certainly Max has his own opinion, and many people have that opinion that Israel is an apartheid. So that Max would not be the only person to have said that, right? Right. Domestically, I view the DA as a clean party, but the fact is they so like Israel, Ashraf. Israel is a rotten state, man. There got lots of different comments around that. And another one, the issue of feeling an ineligible player does not fall under the competence of a referee. I think the caller has it wrong there. So slightly different point there. Ashraf, you never miss a chance to defend Ramaphosa. What I like is that you and your family have to live together with us in this incompetent administration. You can protect him all you like, but his incompetence affects you every day. Hey, I'm not protecting him. I'm simply giving you the balance of the point that there's a lot. Did I actually say there's a lot in South Africa that's a mess? I hope you heard that. I did say that. I'm also saying there's a lot even within the mess that we get right, and there are investments flowing in the country. There's lots of good things happening in the country. So maybe we should just look at both. It doesn't mean it's okay. It's not okay, for example, when the hospitals are a mess. It's not okay with the crime rate. It's not okay with the mass numbers of poverty that we have in the country. It's not okay for all those things. But there are other things that we are actually getting right. And you must concede on that, because that is also true, right? Okay, let me, there's maybe time for one more quick comment if I can get to that. Interesting. Let me just tell you this as we wrap up as well. In terms of podcasts, by the way, you can pick up podcasts of all the things we do. Check it out. Go to the website, safm.co.za. You'll find some things, and then do share that as well. And one thing I thought was very interesting, and I must share this picture just now. There's a picture I saw which is just beautiful in its creativity. It's got all the countries on the African continent. And as you know how the countries are shaped, right? But these countries are shaped, and they've used the image not of the flags of the countries as you would normally do. They've used the image of each country with its football top, its football jersey that they wear. So Bafana, South Africa, then would be like a yellow top, if you get my point, and Morocco would be a red top, as an example. And I found it just, what a beautiful thing. I must actually share that. So maybe when I'm done just now, I will tweet it out on the social media platforms, and you can check it out as well, right? Let me just end by saying goodbye to Themba Dlamini once again. So Themba, you're listening in. I know that you don't want to be on air. It's the last time that we would say this. Themba Dlamini, producer, SAFM Radio. From now on, we'll have to say Themba Dlamini, friend. Enjoy it. Here's the news at 6 with Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf.